They accuse you of being racist or having white privilege, it's best to just give them the finger and tell them how the cow ate the cabbage.
That's a good one. I'm going to bring you
Amazing.
to amazing is right.
Exactly, because they have SOS, system, a value system. They have order and they have structure. And anyone who obstructs against any of that, you get your head chopped off.
That's the bad guy. We are live. Thought I'd start out with a few clips. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, it's Tony Pill time. It's Thursday night reality check. I'm here with Primal Man. Gene, how you doing tonight, man?
Very well. Thank you.
Good. Good to see you. And good to see everybody in the chat tonight. Yeah, we're going to get some Tony Pill tonight. Tonight is about probably the most dislike, or the saying that I dislike the most, and that's we can agree to disagree. And there's a reason why I don't like that. I kind of think it's a cop-out. And everything that's going on in our world today, it's because we agree to disagree. As a man, as a woman, it's okay to disagree. Now, I'm not sure if anybody understands why I don't like that saying. Again, I think it's a cop-out. I think you're kind of bailing on something that you disagree with somebody with. It's kind of an easy way out. And confrontation as a man, I think, is very good. I don't think it's always necessary, but that's kind of a way to avoid confrontation. So, Primal Man, with your cigar, tell us what you think about that.
Tell you what I'm smoking first. I'm smoking a Monte Cristo Classic Series, and man, this is so good. It's delicious. Monte Cristo is a Cuban brand, and this is just a great cigar. I think it's probably just the second time I had this one. The agree to disagree. Yeah, you can flat out just disagree. That's the way it's supposed to be. Just disagree. You don't need to agree to disagree. Just disagree.
And why would you consider it a cop-out? I mean, to me, it's kind of weak when somebody says that. And just so everybody knows, too, real quick, I pinned the StreamYard link in the chat. So if somebody wants to jump on, tonight's kind of a chill night. I had a long day, so the StreamYard link is there. Just follow the directions. You go backstage, and if I know you, I'll let you on. If I don't know you, I'll check you out first. So, but anyways, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I think it's kind of soft because you're trying to appease everybody, trying to create a safe space.
Yeah,
there's a time and a place to be gentle with people, but in most cases, sometimes you just got to keep it tough love. You got to keep it sturdy, keep it firm, and no softness, right? No weakness. Thank you, Alexio. Tony Pill time.
Yeah, there he is. My dog, Timmy Kramer. What's up, buddy? Good to see you, man. Yeah,
hey,
it's
everybody in the chat.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, Peg, Emmanuel, Alexio. Let me see who else is here. Got a couple funny comments. We got Emmanuel. I always put this up for him. Mega, make Ireland great again. Good to see you, Emmanuel. And we got Black Circle says the Tony Pill hates to agree to disagree. Correct. And here's a comment. I disagree that somebody gave me a thumbs down already. But, hey, that's okay. I just disagree with you.
Is that the first rule of the Tony Pill? No agreeing and disagree.
That's that. I'm going to say that, yeah, we're going to adapt to that. okay? Because the Tony pill is about adapting. I want to give a big shout out to Hold the Truth Hostage.
Yeah.
He did a video about, I've got it in my community. He did a video about the Tony pill, and Hold the Truth Hostage is basically I'm going to call him the one and only philosopher of the manosphere, which is kind of cool. So what he does is he breaks down the pills, and pills are metaphors for life. They're not really ideologies. They're metaphors for the way you're living your life. And he's come up with a couple different ones. I think Primal Man kind of inspired, we call it the Holy White Pill, I think is what it's called. And that's Gene's philosophy on life, is the way he lives his life. So I think eventually we will see probably a breakdown on the Holy White Pill dedicated to you. So, but I do want to give a big shout out to Hold the Truth Hostage. A lot of love and respect there, man. He's our only philosopher of the manosphere. And I know some people in the manosphere, even, you know, and a lot of love to Steve the Dean Williams. I love Steve, but he really doesn't like the whole pill thing, like, you know, the red pill, the black pill, and he's like, he kind of talks about, and I get it, but I do like the fact that the pills are philosophies, is what they are, and Hold the Truth Hostage does a great job of breaking them all down. So, but I want to just give a big shout out and check him out. Check out his channel. There's some links in my community for Hold the Truth Hostage. So, but also, hey, I'm going to bring on Emmanuel Godson from Ireland.
Bring on my Irish brother.
Yes, sir. There he is. How we doing tonight, boss?
Hey, fellas. I've got a cigar. I've got my coffee and I've got a cigar as well. I got Hamlet cigars. So I'm going to have a cigar with you.
It's a beautiful.
Speaking of, there's Steve the Dean Williams.
There he is.
Yeah, my dog.
We were just talking
brother.
about
Good
you.
to see you, man. Good to see you. I think that's awesome. Thanks, Steve. We were just talking about you, about the pills. We know you don't like the pills, and that's cool. So, yeah, a lot of love for Steve the Dean Williams. You guys check him out, themanmindset.com. Always great help for men dealing with all sorts of issues. A lot of love to Steve the Dean for sure. Thanks for dropping in, Steve. Appreciate you. Yeah, so Emmanuel, I want your opinion on we can agree to disagree, because that's kind of one of my pet peeves when somebody says that. It just really irritates me. And I think that's caused a lot of problems in our country and in the world because people don't stand up. And what the problem is when you say that, I think it's kind of like a cop-out. You're kind of backing off, and you're not really telling what needs to be told. So if you disagree with somebody, I think as a man, you can just disagree. Now you can agree with me or disagree with me. So give me your point of view on that.
I think to tell somebody to say in the middle of a debate or something, right, we'll agree to disagree. I think it's etiquette and it's a polite way of saying, okay, we both disagree, so we're not going to escalate this into a fucking all-out war. We're not going to get angry about the fact that we disagree and end up doing violence to each other, right? So it's a polite way of backing away from escalation of a situation, right, for the sake of having a civil debate. So I would say it's not that big a deal. If you want to push the issue and say, no, hang on, this is an important issue and I'm not going to let you back away from it. We need to talk about this more, you know, and who's right and who's wrong here. Then do it in a civil manner. Don't escalate it into conflict, you know, into negativity and argument. Don't lose the debate into an argument. So to agree to disagree, it's like an etiquette to avoid conflict. That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I mean, I get what you're saying. But to me, it's hey, MD, what's up, man? Good to see you. To me, it's just kind of a cop-out. In other words, it just doesn't feel right when somebody says that to me. You know, I know as men, confrontation should be pretty normal in your life. It shouldn't be a regular thing, but confrontation, I think, is healthy, and the way you handle it is healthy. But that saying to me just really kind of grinds my gears, let's just say. So, and the reason I brought that up, because I did hear that a couple times this week from different people, and it just kind of, it bothers me. It does. I think it's okay to have conflict. It's okay, you know, even, you know, as, you know, any women out there watching too, it's okay to have some conflict. Like, I think if you're in a relationship that, I think if you're to say that to the other side, I think you're kind of backing down is what it is. So, and I think sometimes we need to hold firm into what we believe in and what we disagree about. So,
But there's a difference between backing away from conflict and conceding, right? So you're not, when you say you agree to disagree, it doesn't mean you're conceding that you were wrong. It just means you're politely backing away from escalating the situation into conflict. So, but then you could say, if somebody says, right, we'll agree to disagree, you can say, no, that's not good enough. We'll continue this debate and we'll find out who's correct, you know.
mm-hmm.
But as I said before, I'm repeating myself now, but you just try and keep it civil. But don't keep pushing an issue and saying you're not allowed to say we agree to disagree. You know, don't push the issue so much that it becomes a negative conflict or it becomes like hating each other or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I get totally what you're saying, but to me, it's kind of a cop out. It just is. It's a cop out for ending a conversation with no resolve. Is kind of what I think about it. You know, it's just one of those pet peeves that I have. It just really gets me. So, but also too, I want to show you guys, if anybody likes a nice Kentucky bourbon straight whiskey here, try this sometime. What are you drinking tonight, Primal Man?
I'm having some Jesse James bourbon with a splash of ginger ale.
Yeah. So tell me about that, because you mentioned that earlier.
I like it. I don't drink often, but I picked up some bourbon today for the show, just for tonight, and it's smooth, very smooth. There's very little bite. And a lot of people might not like that, but there's hardly any bite at all. Just a slight finish. There's a little bite on the finish. A lot of caramel, some vanilla. It's smooth as butter. I love it.
What? Who makes it?
It's called Jesse James bourbon.
There's no
bourbon of the Old West, I guess.
Huh? Is it a top shelf, mid range? No. What is it?
Mid range.
Mid-range?
Mid-range.
What's that mean? 20, 25 bucks a bottle, something like that?
20. I think it was 20.
Mm-hmm.
Like might have been $17.99, something like that.
Okay.
I'm not a connoisseur on bourbon or any type of alcohol. I am a connoisseur on cigars and coffee, but bourbon, sometimes if I decide I'm gonna try a more expensive bourbon, I wound up just not caring about it and just figuring I'll waste $40, $50, whatever.
Yeah, I actually this is really good. It's a good comment. Is drinking hard seltzer feminine? You know what? I've never had one of those. That is like a what's the
White Claw?
White Claw. Yeah, I've never had one.
I know the Vizzies are good.
Yeah.
I never had White Claw, but I've had Vizzy. I like Vizzy.
I think all the companies are making them right now, right? Like Corona, and I tend to see that in the stores, but I've never had one.
They're trying to give them like a little healthy spin too. Like the Vizzies, it says like antioxidants, vitamin C or something on it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, what's in it? It's probably vodka based, I would imagine.
I think it's vodka. It's hard to tell. You barely taste the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes like flavored sparkling water, but you know, more sweeter. It's better. It's good. The Vizzies are really good. The Vizzies are nice. I when I was out of waters at the house, and I had some Vizzies in the fridge one night, and I was dying of thirst. I just cracked open a Vizzy and chugged it and went to bed.
Is that what you call them? Vizzies?
That's what they call them, Vizzies.
Why is it called Vizzies?
I guess Vizzy. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
Vizzy.
I've never heard that. So could you answer Alexio's question?
I would say this, you know, I would tell you this much. Yes and no. Okay. And here's what I mean by that.
Do you agree to disagree with him?
No. There is a straight answer to this. I would say yes and no. I would say it's feminine if a man can't handle straight whiskey or straight alcohol. I think it's a little feminine that he can't. You know, I've most of the time if I do drink, it's straight. And every time I go around a bunch of dudes who are sports coping or sports maxing, they're all like, "How you drinking straight? How you drinking straight?" And I'm just like, and they got their little Vizzies and their little beers and all that. But if you can't drink straight whiskey and all you can handle is beer or hard seltzer, that's feminine. But if you can do both, you're good. You're good.
All right. Yeah, I actually, like I said, I had a little sip of this. This has been sitting on my bar for a while. And I can tell you that it is incredibly smooth. I think a bottle of this is about $35. So it's, but incredibly smooth. And I'm not a bourbon guy. Just had about a half of a shot and just kind of sipped on it. And what I'm drinking right now, I don't know if anybody's familiar with a Moscow Mule. Anybody familiar with that? How about you, Emmanuel?
Moscow Mules, yeah, that's a cocktail. That's I think it's whiskey, is it?
No,
whiskey
it's vodka, lime, and ginger beer.
Laura, you're right, yeah.
And in fact, I think an original Moscow Mule, I'm not sure if it's done with a lime. It might be done with mint. I think they muddle mint into it in an actual Moscow Mule, if I'm correct. You know,
I mean, I'm embarrassing myself here. I used to be a bartender in an American style bar, so I used to know all my cocktails when I was like 20 years old, but I can't remember now.
Yeah, I mean, I like ginger beer. Ginger beer is really good. It's good for your stomach, you know. So when you make a little cocktail with ginger beer and a lime and some vodka, it really is nice. It's a nice tasting, refreshing drink. It's been a long hot day in Florida, so. All right, let's see it. Jesse James. Wow.
It's got a nice color to it, too. Really nice color.
It does. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of connoisseurs out there when it comes to that. So. And you're drinking it straight, correct?
No. I mean, I can drink it straight. Let's try it out with the cigar. Oh, I'm muted. I'm sitting there muted. It's super smooth. There's no bite at all. But it's nice with a cold ginger ale. I was in the mood for something cold, a mixed drink, and ginger ale and Jesse James. I had it with a little ice, but these got colder in the fridge, so I said I'm just gonna use it without the ice. It waters it down.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess nobody knew tonight you're going to get a little mixology lesson here. A little talk about some bourbons and, you know. But I would recommend a Moscow Mule if you've ever tried ginger beer. Ginger beer with a little vodka and a lime it's a real refreshing drink. Let's see what Alexio says here. He said, I need to stop drinking with chasers. No, I get that. There's I know that, like if I'm to do like a shot of something that I'm not used to, like a shot of say like bourbon or something like that, like Jack Daniels, I would definitely chase it with something. So, It's kind of like a tequila shot. Think of what you do with a tequila shot. Tequila, salt, and lime.
I'll tell you what. This Monte Cristo Classic Series. First off, it's an amazing stick alone. But paired up with a bourbon and this ginger ale, oh man, it's amazing. It's great, absolutely great.
You know what? Tell us about the pairing. What makes the cigar and the bourbon go together?
Okay, for me, when I smoke a cigar, not all cigars are good. Okay, just because I like cigars don't mean I enjoy every cigar that I buy. If I'm not pairing a cigar with something, that's okay. But a lot of times I'll get like a earthy, leathery taste, like I just bit into a piece of leather, and it's really skunky. It's really funky, and so sometimes you can take a drink like a coffee or a bourbon or something, and just sort of wash that nasty like after flavor from a cigar down, and it makes the cigar okay because you get less of the finished flavors and more of the draw flavors. And so that's one reason why I like to pair. The biggest reason why I like to pair is because it enhances the flavor of the cigar. Not so much enhances the drink, but it enhances the cigar. And coffee is my favorite thing to pair with a cigar. It brings out all the creamy notes. When you think of like sweet cream, almost like a glazed donut or something. That's what you get when you pair a nice Connecticut with a coffee. But when I do pair with cigars and coffee, it's always a coffee with cream. Most of the time, it's a latte, like a strong espresso with a lot of milk, a lot of cream. Half and half is usually what I get a latte with. But pairing a cigar is the best way to go with a cigar, in my opinion. And I'm really enjoying this tonight.
Yeah, that's cool. That's some good advice right there.
Oh, the retro hell too. If you pair a cigar with a drink.
Now the retro hail is when it goes kind of through your nose.
Yeah, and you don't just take a draw on a cigar and just blow it all through your nose. You sort of let a little come out your mouth, and then just the tail end of the smoke, you retro hail it.
Oh, there's our boy Gonzo.
There he is.
I really enjoyed Krabby's Fine Ginger Beer, but I think you can get it imported from the UK. Yeah, I've never heard of that one. I like Gosling's is a really good one. Look at that. Gonzo's out having dinner. Good for you, man. Alexio says, are IPAs a soy boy drink? No, I don't think so. But I know that beer is estrogenic, I believe. So
hops are estrogenic.
Yeah, they are.
There's a story about hops, Tony, where the women and the people that handle the hops when they're growing the hops, or when they used to actually handle the hops a lot by hand, actually had high estrogen levels from dealing with the hops just from their skin.
Yeah. And now somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but hops is part of the cannabis family, marijuana family, I believe. Now, I'll give you some beer trivia. Everybody's heard that phrase, you're all hopped up on something. And that comes from the guys who used to pick the hops in the hops fields, and they would stuff their pillows with it at night, and so they would get hopped up. It would actually make them drowsy and fall asleep. There's also another phrase you've heard. This is beer trivia. You've heard mind your P's and Q's. Maybe Emmanuel can tell us. Do you know what that means, mind your P's and Q's?
No, I don't know.
It's I believe it's from the English, mind your pints and quarts, is what it means. Yep. So I want to welcome MD. MD.
Hey, what's up, bro? How's everything?
Good. We're just I've had a long day, so we're just kind of just chatting it up and talking about different things, and So,
Hey, I got
but
some good news this week.
what you got?
I got some good news this week. I'm going to sound like a complete loser, but I'm going back to college to get my degree in art finally. It's something. It's something. I went to college when I was younger, and I cracked up. Like I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in college, so I never got my degree. So I decided before I die, I'm going to get my degree in college. So I got offered a place this week. So in September, I go back to art college to do a degree.
Well, congratulations. There's nothing wrong with knowledge, is there?
Well, I have a choice: either fucking rot down to death in this shed for the rest of my life, or get up off my arse and do something. You know. So I decided I'm going to try and get my degree, and maybe I'll have a few years. You know, I should be qualified when I'm 50 years old. Maybe I can do a bit of teaching. You know, that's what I was thinking. But it's a better option than just sitting around waiting to die. You know.
Yeah. I mean, we got MD on here tonight, and he's starting a knowledge channel, which I'm looking forward to.
Oh yeah.
So, MD, tell us about your new channel. Yeah, because I'm kind of excited about it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm gonna be leaving. I'll probably do like maybe 3, maybe 4 streams or something, and a couple guys might be doing Saturday nights. But yeah, it's just gonna be like all about knowledge and theory, and like wisdom and stuff, talking about everything from ancient civilizations all the way to like nutrition, health, conspiracy. Yeah, just really getting deep into the subject. I really feel what you're saying about, to agree to disagree is kind of like a cop out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like confrontation is very healthy. It forces a person to think, and on the stream currently, I'm hoping a few guys wrote me. They said, they're going to start streaming. I told them, look, I'll promote everybody's channel because I probably won't be on Saturdays anymore. I'll do Sunday and maybe a day or 2 during the week. And
Sunday is a good night because there's not much going on Sunday nights.
Yeah, it's a good internet night, plus I'll make it more structured, an hour, maybe 2 hours. And we'll get deep into stuff like when we would talk about things on the channel. I used to have to tell guys, look, we're either agreeing with the evidence or we're disagreeing with the evidence. There is no agree to disagree. It's either, we're both in agreement of it, or one of us is in agreement and the other isn't. And if it's not evidential, then the most honest answer is we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, human origins, ancient civilization, conspiracy stuff, we can use logic to kind of figure it out. But then, of course, it will come back to we don't know, on some fronts. On other fronts, yeah, we do know, like certain things about food and nutrition that are, detrimental to the health of humans. So there is, there is a big opening for that. I think also that's where my heart's at, because I came into the manosphere to really help a friend. And I'm glad people are pointing out, what's wrong, because if you don't do that, then it becomes a big toilet bowl. Mm-hmm. And I got to give, kudos to Anthony Johnson and even, the other guy, the dating coach guy and all of that. We know we don't agree,
Mm-hmm.
And, it just, it comes to where we can agree on certain things. And one thing is, of course, you don't take pictures of kids. Anybody who does that, it's, you got to call that out as wrong,
Yeah.
So, that's where I'm like, all right, we know the other stuff we're just going to get into, it's going to get ugly. So let's leave it alone and we'll just focus on that. And I don't, I think I've given more than enough. It's been almost 1.5 years. And hopefully, usually when you leave, that's when people appreciate it more. Not to say guys don't appreciate it now.
Yeah.
There's guys that do. But there is a few people are leaving actually. I think there's another guy. He does some type of like journalist type stream for the Manosphere. So yeah, man. I mean, guys, I think the Knowledge Channel, I'm not really sure what I'm going to call it. I got some ideas. I think that's going to be a good platform for men to learn, to say, okay, look, we can talk about comparative religion. We can talk about ancient civilization, what's been found, what, how we're supposed to change our historical background on what we're finding now, in the present. Stuff about what's going on. I might actually have to open up a website. I bought like a .com because some of the conversation getting into the jab and stuff like that, YouTube and other things will censor it, and this is a serious thing that people aren't taking. A lot of people don't care, but we're in some serious situation right now. This is a serious situation, what's going on. The medical freedom and stuff like that, and just the state of the world. So to get deep onto that, I'd probably have to have a website to say, all right, look, we'll have some of the conversation here and then other conversation on the website, so to protect it. And even that I don't even think is going to be safe enough, because there is no privacy anymore. There's definitely, I mean, even with the telephone, I knew, how do you expect not, every phone call's tapped since the invention,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I look forward to it. I think it's going to be a well-deserved break. I'll still be streaming, every week, but at least I won't be like Manosphere content,
Yeah, I mean, I personally feel that you've done a lot for the Manosphere. I really do. You've brought a lot of people together, kind of on a common ground, and I've noticed that people have come and gone, and that's their choice, But I think what happens with the Manosphere, and you're proving a real good point, is that I think guys come into this and they're looking for help, but it's really a good thing when people leave also, because they got what they needed and then they can move on. And I think what the issue is, what you've called out is that a lot of these guys don't want you to leave their corner. They need you in their corner. They need that validation. They need those dollars. So they have to structure their content to keep you sucked in. If you're not sucked in, you're of no use to them. And that's one of the things that I think you've called out in a huge way. And I've got a lot of respect for that. Again, the Tony pill is the adapt pill, and hold the truth hostage I love the way he did his take on that. And adapting, I think, is really, really important. But what happens is in this corner of our YouTube world, the Manosphere, in quotes, I think it was really started to help men, and it's become kind of like we say, like almost like a toilet bowl, where it basically keeps you spinning in that vortex, and it doesn't want to let you out. It's like flushing the toilet, but it never actually flushes, is what it is.
Yeah, it's true. And hopefully, yeah, people will. I hope Hold the Truth starts to stream. I know you stream sometimes on Saturdays. Yeah. So like when I'm not there, people have a choice, because streaming every Saturday, I haven't missed a Saturday for, about 15 months, 16 months. It carved out a position, to where people they know, okay, between 10 and 11:30, he's going to start streaming. Everybody's allowed on. It's going to be like a total, madhouse for a while. It just, I hope he came on Saturday, Hold the Truth, so I told him, hey, there's another guy that wrote me. It's a hard slot to fill, you know, to not miss a Saturday. It's definitely, there was times where I just wanted to sit back, edit my books. And I said, man, I owe it to the men. You know, Robert Bly, who I consider to be the true godfather of the manosphere, I feature his channel. It's the Minnesota Men's Conference. He's 94, I think, this year. He really has some good teaching for men. Him, Michael Mead from Mosaic Voices, you know, they help men walk through that ritual, you know, into manhood. So, you know, maybe with the new channel, I do like to explore, you know, the human, you know, origins, the creation of life, the universe.
I'm really glad you said that, because what I wanted to ask you is, I noticed you've talked about in one of the streams that I was really interested in, that is about how science is, I guess, if I want to put this right, is basically disproving evolution. Correct?
Yeah.
Am I stating that right? And I know, Gene, you might have some points on this also. So creation is something that is undeniable, is kind of what you're saying. And that was a really good talk. I think it was a couple weeks ago, or that you guys were talking about that.
Yeah, we've got deep into that on even earlier streams, like from last year. I noticed after like the first 5 to 10 streams, toward the end of them, because we used to have some really long ones, 8 hours, 7 hours, and it would veer into the human origins question. And science really, science proves that life had to, it has a signature of creation to it. Now, whether that be creators or a creator, you know, if you look into religious books, it seems to be a plural. You know, I remember I got a friend, he's an Irish Catholic, and I told him, well, open up your King James Version. I said, right there, it says, let us create him in our image. I said, let us and our, I said, is plural. New American Christian Bible says, and God created man in his image, singular. The Torah says plural as well, the Elohai and the Elohim. So, you know, this is what the Knowledge Channel can get into. And science, see, I had to study evolution to be able to say, okay, you know, because without looking at the evidence there, how can I even, you know, talk about the point? It would just be biased if I just talked about it from a religious point or, you know, a science-based point. This is why I'm writing a book. I don't know if I'm going to call it the religion of evolution, because it is a religion. The pseudo-scientific establishment tries to make religious people look like they're crazy or they're just religious zealots. But whether, you know, it is a belief. Okay, religion is a belief, but so is evolution. Evolution is a belief that tries to say, no, we're scientific. If you use the scientific method and you just look at something like, all right, they say life started in a puddle, like just make that shit up. Okay, it started, right? They say a single cell organism formed, right? The mathematical science and logic, logistics can disprove that with law of probability. To make a carbohydrate, because a cell, you know, you got to have a carbohydrate, protein, you know, nucleus, you know, you have to have certain things. And then you got to have a cell wall form. You know, for this to happen by chance is astronomical. It's like rolling a dice more than 10,000 times and getting the same number every time. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. So this is where it takes a lot of science and conversation to say, all right, we take it into steps. And that's what I've been formulating in the book, to let people know, okay, you bring it back to the beginning. Evolution, you know, the fake science, they say, okay, we look for material answers, you know, going forward in science, like, you know, and it's all bullshit. It's like, when you really look at it, it's like, okay, so you're telling me everything is material when everything we see right now is run by something invisible. something you can't see. When we speak to each other, you can't see the word that we're speaking. It's invisible. It might work on a sound vibration or whatever, but it's invisible. The waves from a television or radio, it's invisible. The air that we breathe, it's invisible. You see, so the invisible actually runs the visible world, and that could also be in the physical part of the world. But then you have to bring in what some people might call the soul. It could be equated to the spirit. It could be equated to consciousness, but that might not even be in this whatever dimension, you know. So this is where where I'd like the conversation to be, but whenever we would get into that, I would steer it back onto the manosphere. But now with this new channel of thought, I can just get into the whole just get deep with it, to say, okay, like Runaway Train's got a good comment, right? To take those and go further, to say, all right, where did it come from? How was it translated? What else was left out? Now we take, because really the religious texts, which go beyond, the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, the Popol Vuh, which is the Native American version of the Bible, the Hindu scriptures, the Chinese philosophies, Zen Buddhism and stuff, that has to be taken into account, and to say, okay, what do they all have in common? They all have in common something more than just human beings. So I think that's where I enjoy the conversation. And there, a couple of guys have written me and said, man, when I listen to stuff like that, it takes me away from the problems that they had in the manosphere. So it's really what I see more of a purpose with it, So I look forward to that, man. And guys have always wanted to talk about that. And it's not to, again, if it comes into where, say, 2 different religions or 3 different religions will say, well, I believe this and that believes that, thank you, Mr. C. Then it's not even we can agree to disagree. It comes back to, we don't know. That's the most honest answer, because when somebody tells me, oh, well, this is how, I'm like, you don't know. I don't know. You don't know. There's no agreeing to disagree. We don't know. And if you say you do know, you really don't, And it's not to tell a guy, oh, you're full of shit or whatever, because I'm going to try to make the channel non-profanity, where we can speak like very intellectual. It might happen, but I'm going to really try to keep it very, very, respectful, but very, very firm, to let guys know, like, look, man, a lot of evolutionists, where I get the most flack from is the religion of evolution. Because guys will be like, oh, well, it started this way. I'm like, well, so what, do you got a time machine or something and you traveled back? You're telling me this ape, and this is where I needed to study the science for the last 20 years to be able to tell a person there's more missing links than there are links. Mm-hmm. There's no link between gorilla and man, or ape and gorilla, or chimp to ape, or monkey to chimp, or fish to reptile, or reptile to bird. And it's not a missing link. It's called a non-existent transitional species. But when you say non-existent transitional species, you say, wait a minute, so it doesn't exist? You see, so that wakes you up. But no, it does exist. It's just missing. Missing link implies that it exists. It's a lie, to say it's missing. It's like, it's really takes some serious thought in it, So, and I've heard of the stoned ape theory by Terence McKenna too, and a lot of people do say he's CIA operative. Whether he is or isn't, he has some really deep philosophy on some of his other things, where he said Western civilization is like a loaded gun pointed at the planet. So he has some really good stuff. But again, you see these guys that are in what I call the religion of evolution, and they try to bash everybody else's religion as being, like a fairy tale or something, and it just, this is probably the most important conversation that people can have. You know, the three: where do we come from? Where are we going? And what are we here for? You know, Mark Twain said the two most important days of your life is the day you were born and the day you realize why. So, you know, yeah, they'll get into stuff like that, man. But yeah.
There was one thing you had talked about, and I think it was on Primal Man stream. I think you were in the chat. And it's funny because I saw the chat. I think it was I don't know if it's this past Monday night, but it was about the Bible. And you had mentioned, I think MD in the chat about there's different versions. And me and Gene were actually talking about that. You remember that conversation? You know, it was Monday. We talked about that. Remember I had said the King James version, look into different versions of the Bible because it's different interpretations. And I think that was really important. And I know, MD, you brought up something in the chat about that. In other words, there's different interpretations of the Bible. So somebody who can't really understand, I'll say, the King James version with the, you know, heretofores and where art thou's, and, you know, can read a living Bible, I guess it's called, and maybe get a better understanding of the Bible. But it also goes back to this is the part that bothers me, is we go back to what's missing. In other words, what happened in translation? What are we missing in the translation of the Bible?
Well, if we take it back, because what's the most recent largest religion? That would be Islam, the Quran, which I call Christianity 2.0. Now, some people get offended by that, some don't, right? I say it's just basically brown Christians, and Christians are basically white Muslims. It's the same single creator, Michael or Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, you know, Gabriel, same angels. The only difference what I give the Quran credit for is they talk about the jinn, and I've spoken with Muslims and I've asked them, you know, in the beginning it says that Allah is the creator and like the ruler over all worlds in a plural. And a lot of them will say, yeah, definitely. So it literally says in there other worlds, like different worlds. And the jinn, of course, are beings made from smokeless fire, you know, and makes you wonder about that. So we start with that, which is what, 1,300 years old or something, you know, 600 AD around there. Then you go and you say, okay, Christianity is before that. So like I've had people tell me like, oh, well, you know, they mentioned, you know, like, you know, Christianity validates the Quran, you know, and stuff like that. And I said, well, they're all from basically what would be called Abrahamic religions. So Abraham, you know, Isaac, you know, so you say, okay, you have the Quran, you go back before that, you have the Christians, which you have many different sections. You even have Gnostic Christians, which believe that, you know, the tree of knowledge was actually, you know, like something, a good thing, you know, we needed that. Then where did the Christianity come from? It stemmed from the Torah, which is the 5 books of Moses, right? But why didn't they put in the other books and the other writings, right? Now, the Christian texts will contain some of those writings that weren't put into the Torah, like the Apocrypha, the Book of Enoch, which you can find in Greek Orthodox Bibles and in certain Christian texts. Catholicism, another branch off, you know, a little more strict than Christianity. So when we go back to the Torah, we got to say, okay, what's on the other side of the world? Hinduism, the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, the longest poem in the world. The Bhagavad Gita is the Lord's song, you know, the Bhagavad and Gita song. They're talking about space battles and shit like that, like Arjun and Krishna, and God has a wife. Every deity has a wife. Very close to Greek mythology, Zeus and Hera, Apollo, you know, Dionysus and all of, you know, you look at it and you say, wow, this is fascinating, right? So let's go back further and say, well, where did the Torah, how did they get these stories? You go back to the Epic of Gilgamesh with Utnapishtim, which seems to be a representation, the oldest representation of Noah. You know, could be. Now they found something even older, 1,000 years older. So you're looking at, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years old. So predating the Torah by, say, 2 millennia. So now we start to say, wow, there's a lot more to this story. It requires research. It requires us to say, okay, the real part now is to look at it like a scholar. And we can't look at it totally like this unless we know for sure how do we hold back the tides of the religion of evolution. Because the religion of evolution is something like an acid, one scientist called it. He said it dissolves everything and tries to tell you, well, you're not being scientific. You guys are just religious zealots. But really, they're the most religious of all, because I put it this way in the book. Their Lord and Savior is the missing link. The Pope is Charles Darwin. The cathedral is the Museum of Natural History. And the high priest is Richard Dawkins, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Michio Kaku. And funny enough, they come in 3 different flavors, like Neapolitan ice cream. You got Neil deGrasse is black, Michio Kaku is Asian, and Richard Dawkins is white. So if any ethnicity you fit into, here we got a high priest for you. And they're all full of shit. When you look at it, you have to see, if this isn't really looked at, then of course you're going to have these hordes of pseudo-scientific people that'll say, oh, well, evolution's a fact. No, it's a theory. That's why it's called the theory of evolution, just the way gravity is called the theory of gravity. And as soon as I say it, people say, oh, well, what are you trying to say? This? I'm not trying to say nothing. It's a theory. That's what it is. Now, yeah, shit falls to the ground. We still have to understand that. Electricity, we don't know how that really works, but it works, And I tell people, look, I don't know how we got here. Science tries to tell me they don't know, but I exist. So yeah, I think this is it'll be a really good channel, man, with some deep, deep stuff. I have a lot of evidence from artifacts I've taken pictures of to show people, okay, this couldn't have been made with a chisel. This couldn't have made with this. Like, there's a thing, I think it's in the Torah. It's called a shamir. It's supposedly translated into a worm that can cut through stone. And they're wondering, was that something that they had that could have cut the stones that possibly made pyramids or something like that? So I think it's fascinating. And I think I think it's going to take it into a good direction. And, once I go there, I don't think I'll be, I might post a few things on the channel's community post, but that's about it. I won't do no more live streams after that. It'll just be.
This goes so great with the topic tonight, agree to disagree, because with the knowledge channel, that's really going to be a kind of an issue, is agreeing to disagree. You can just disagree, or like you said, we just don't know. So, John Steele, I want to welcome you.
How you doing, gentlemen?
I remember you. How you doing?
Very well. Gene, I love your hat, bro.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
I'm serious. I'm not kidding. I really like that.
It's a great hat, man. It's a great hat.
That's sweet, man. I'm just a brief curiosity. How much something like that? How long is that a Stetson? What do those things cost?
$45.
Okay.
Negotiated.
I was gonna say, yeah, you've got a deal, because I think those things usually go for more than that. But to MD thing about evolution, I kind of disagree with that. If anybody's interested, Google game theory as applied to evolution, and it explains a lot. The mathematics of game theory. John Nash, famous from A Beautiful Mind, is the one that kind of popularized it, and they found out that game theory can be applied to so many things, like even like evolution, explaining why organisms evolve the way they do. I know MD is not really big on evolution, and he's right that it is a theory, but just because you kind of start with a theory, then you start with a hypothesis, then you form a theory, and then you form what they call a law. Ohm's law or Watt's law, things like that. So just because they call it a theory doesn't mean that it doesn't work. And even though there are unanswered questions about the evolution of mankind, and there's many questions about, like, let's say the pyramids, no one's precisely sure. There's many theories actually about how they could have built them. I mean, if they had built like a skyscraper like the Twin Towers back then I'd be really impressed. Then I'd say, yeah, they did have alien technology or something like that. But I mean, basically, it's just a pyramid, right?
Well, no. The pyramid is much more impressive than the skyscraper. The skyscraper will crumble in a matter of a couple of 100 years. The pyramids, at the least, are about, now they're saying 12,000 years old. Now the Orthodox is 2,500 years old.
No, they're not saying that about the pyramids. They were talking about the Sphinx.
No, the Sphinx. But now, when
not
you look
the
at
pyramids.
no. They're saying that about the pyramid. No, wait, John. They're saying that about the pyramids as well. Believe me, I've done extensive research on.
Yeah, so have I. I've read John Anthony West. I've read. Robert Shaw.
I've met John Anthony West. I have a picture with John Anthony West. I've met him in New York City. Talked with him at his lecture, and there are some things that he's full of shit on, with the lotus flower and all of that. And no. But this is what I'm saying. I've done this research, and I'm not saying that, okay, I know everything, but I know what isn't true. I know that things don't evolve into something else. It's called the theory of adaptation, and I wrote it 15 years ago.
This is exactly what I wanted you to talk about, because when you were talking about this, I'm not sure when it was, and it made so much sense. And I really did agree with you on that.
I appreciate it.
Exactly what you were talking about.
And this is the thing, Tony. We're really more agreeing on the evidence. Mm-hmm. So for somebody else to come in and they'll say, oh, well, you guys are just agreeing with each other. And it's like, no, we're not. We're agreeing with the evidence of a life form will adapt into different types of environments with that life form. So you have dogs with short hair that adapt for hotter climates as opposed to ones with longer hair. You have polar bears. It's still a bear. A grizzly bear is adapted to a certain part, and a polar bear is adapted to a certain part. So, and I hear you, Tony. I mean, I'm glad that, when you look at these things, you start to say to yourself, the bottom line is we really don't know. One thing we do know that, okay, these things aren't just changing into another life form. What evolution is based on is
time. Define what you mean by other life form.
Okay. I'll define it right now.
Like when you say Neanderthal versus Cro-Magnon,
Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon are just all bullshit frauds. Java Man, Boxgrove Man, Piltdown Man, all fairy tales. Piltdown Man was proven to be a fraud. Boxgrove Man, same thing. Java Man, the student of Ernst Haeckel, the known liar and fabricator of Haeckel's embryos that was thrown out of his own university. That was still found in textbooks in 2015. These lies were still found in textbooks.
I just asked you if you could just define what you mean by it. What do you mean by that?
It's not what I mean by it. When something adapts. So, okay, you have, let's just say, for instance, a bird. Birds can adapt to different environments. Reptiles can adapt to different environments, but reptiles are not going to change into birds where they form feathers. And this is where evolution makes up the fairy tale of saying, oh, well, it takes not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but millions of years. So we can bullshit you. If I give it enough time, I can bullshit you forever, because nobody's gonna be able to live to find that lie out. It's ingenious. You can fool a smart person easier than you can fool a stupid person, like they say, because that stupid person ain't really stupid. He's more simple. And if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. So evolution is based on complicating something. It's a card trick. It's a scam, just like the game PUA dating roaches do. They try to scam you and do this quick city slicker bullshit. Now, I was born in New York, in Brooklyn, so I know about the city slicker bullshit.
I was born in New York too.
All right, so then we both know about that. But I'll tell you one thing: I might be a city slicker born guy, but I love the country more because I know cities are like an infection on the planet. All they do is fuck shit up and pollute shit, and everything we get in the city comes from the country. But for some reason, the majority of us, not you and I, but the majority of us forget that. You know, we forget that, and we think that the city is high and mighty and these skyscrapers and all of that. None of these skyscrapers or anything. You can even look at the old buildings of Europe. None of that compares to the pyramids, to the Ellora caves in India, to the Pyramid of the Sun, which, funny enough, is the same size as the footprint.
Yeah, but what about the Roman Colosseum? I mean,
the Roman Colosseum is
the aqueduct, or the
no, it was built.
I mean, and years ago.
Built. No, you absolutely. That's a great point. It was built on something older, the Temple of Bacchus. If you look at the base of the Roman Colosseum of the Temple of Jupiter and shit like that, right? It's built on older stuff. The Oracle of Adelphi. You know, you look at these things, you say, wait a second, there was something that these were built upon, and what they were built upon is showing signs of a gigantic flood. Now, I'm not going to take it and get into the biblical flood and stuff, but scientifically, there was a worldwide flood. And there is proof of this.
Yeah, no, I don't think any empty. I think about the flood. You're 100% spot on, and I don't think that's, you know, that exists both in myth and the archaeological record. I don't think anyone's disputing that.
No, they do dispute it. This is where they dispute it. They dispute it in thinking that it wasn't worldwide. They'll say, okay, the Missoula floods of the northern part of the United States were just, you know, when, you know, something that snapped the Earth out of the Ice Age, right? Now, the Younger Dryas, they're talking about a comet seems
for those
to
who
have...
don't know, Google Graham Hancock and the Younger Dryas.
Well, no, Graham Hancock isn't the authority on that. It's Randall Carlson. He's more of an authority on the Younger Dryas with a comet hitting the ice sheet. Now, what did the Native Americans...
Multiple comets at multiple times, by the way.
Well, we're not sure. See, that's the thing. We're not sure exactly, but I would say it's definitely, you know, more than one comet. But when you think about it, I had a talk with a guys in 2003 on Free Speech Radio. I was calling into radio shows as early as that. And I spoke with these Native Americans. They had a show called The Circle of Red Nations. And Raven and this other guy, I asked them, I said, what was the name for America before it was America? Because of course it wasn't called America. And he said it was called Turtle Island. And it took me years, over a decade, to try to solve that riddle. Why would they call it Turtle Island? I look at the map, I look at all, and I said, it doesn't look like a turtle. But then I realized, studying the Younger Dryas, that it contained a shell of ice. So the only way you would know that North America had a shell of ice was from orbit. You can't see that even from, 10 miles up in the sky. You got to see it from orbit. And if they knew that it was called Turtle Island, why, it has a shell on it, it was snapped out of that, right? Now, could that massive flood have formed the Grand Canyon? Now, I myself, before I met Michael Cremo, the guy who wrote Forbidden Archaeology.
Let's be honest, he's a little bit of a quack.
Well, see, that's the thing. He's a quack, but Richard Dawkins isn't a quack, right? Neil on the Grass Tyson isn't a quack, right? Michio Kaku isn't a quack, right? The government establishment isn't quacks, right? You see what I'm saying? So we're quick to call somebody who did. Michael Cremo.
Well, I think the difference. I would just say about Michael Cremo is Forbidden Archaeology is that he's not a scientist. Like I'm not a big fan of Richard Dawkins because
he's more of a scientist than any scientist you've studied. Let me tell you about him. Michael Cremo and his partner Richard Thompson took every single Western archaeological find and documented it. English, German, French, Other languages took them 8 years to do this, to put the book Forbidden Archaeology together. And they wondered, why is it that when they find certain things, they put it in the textbooks, but when these other finds don't adhere to the theory of evolution, the lie, the religion of evolution, they don't put it in the history books. That's not how science works. Science changes the theory to fit the evidence. The religion of evolution changes the evidence to fit the theory. That's what I realized.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Primal Man, what do you think about this? Because I know you don't believe in evolution. So what are you pulling from this?
That MD is a well-studied man.
Yeah, and I think
and so is John Steele.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really liking this conversation.
Well, can I say something? One thing that MD said that was sparked something in me. There's a geologist named Robert Schoch. I know MD's very familiar with him, but you two guys may or may not be. He was an archaeologist, and he studied the weather erosion patterns on the Sphinx. And he presented his findings that the Sphinx was approximately 15,000 years old, 15,000 before present, I believe. And he presented his findings to a bunch of archaeologists, you know, the science behind, you know, studying the weather erosion and everything like that. And all the other archaeologists goes, yeah, totally makes sense. That's sound science. But when he took those findings to quote unquote Egyptologists, they said, no, you're out of your mind. That can't be true. There's no evidence for this. So they, you know, and they had, you know, he had no idea that his findings were going to be quote unquote controversial because he wasn't an Egyptologist. He didn't realize that his science of geology would MD, you want to expound on that?
And you're right. All right. So first, Robert Schoch isn't an archaeologist; he's a geologist, and I got to give it to John Steele.
Yeah, sorry, geologist. Did I say archaeologist? I'm sorry.
No. I mean, you're very well studied, man. So when we say, okay, the archaeologists didn't even have the authority; they had to get a geologist because that was Robert Schoch. When he looked at and it was John Anthony West, who was a good friend of him. He passed away not too long ago. John Anthony. He showed him a picture of the Sphinx, but he covered the head to where it just looked like flat.
Yeah, that was hysterical. You got to find that video, MD, and share it.
It really was amazing. And Robert Schoch, you know, Robert Schoch was pressured to lower that date from 15,000 to about 8,000. I don't know if he stands at 7 or 8,000 now because of the immense pressure. Now, this is the other thing. All right, so the archaeologists were like, you know, the ones who were open-minded,
geologists,
that Robert Schoch talked to was like, okay, Graham Hancock isn't an archaeologist or a scientist. He's an author, but he's a very well-studied author, right? And Egyptologists, what is an Egyptologist? It's like a bullshit position to say, okay.
It's a scam artist. What's the name of that?
It's a scam, exactly.
Walked out on when he found that he was going to be debating Graham Hancock.
Oh, Zawi Hawass was he's a clown. He is a clown. And this is the thing. This is to show you how an Egyptologist and an Indologist or Induologist for India, how the people of those areas were suppressed in telling their own histories and had to be told by European powers to really tell the world, look, let me tell you this bullshit story because these Egyptians and these Indians don't know their own history. So you know the shit's going to get thick at that point, right? So why isn't there something called a Romanologist or a Greekologist, right? You see the prejudice right there. Oh, no, we don't need nobody to tell that story, but we got to tell the story of the Native Americans, of the South America. We're the authority on this. So Egyptology is already debunked as just being totally full of shit because it's not going in a scientific direction. Champollion, who they said so-called interpret the hieroglyphs, the Egyptian hieroglyphs, he even said himself that he could be totally wrong. Because each hieroglyph seems to be more like an icon on a computer that represents a massive amount of information. And when I look at these hieroglyphs that I've taken many photographs of and ancient artifacts myself, I say to myself, they contain a whole bunch of of information, and we don't even know. There's text from the Polynesian islands called Rongo Rongo that they still haven't interpreted. And they were using the wooden tablets they were written on to burn as firewood. Look at what the Romans did to the scrolls of the libraries, right? They were using them to heat their bath water, to burn. See, this is why hopefully people will write. You know, we're the ones that are going to create the libraries, and then you got the other ones that are going to burn them down. So with Robert Schoch, he gets a lot of credit for, okay, he looked at the Sphinx and he showed clear evidence of water erosion. Egypt is dry, right? How the hell could there be water erosion? And not just regular, you're talking 1,000 years of rain or a great flood. You see? So
no. Indeed, what he did was through the archaeological record, they found at 15,000 years ago that there was a massive rainfall, because the water erosion patterns are not due to a flood. They're due to prolonged high levels of precipitation over many, many years. And
well, yeah,
that's how. I'm not saying that there wasn't a flood. Absolutely, there was a flood. There was, but my point is that if you read his paper on this, the first paper that he wrote, that's what he was arguing, was that this was the erosion on the limestone. And the thing about limestone, it's kind of soft, or I guess as soft as rock can be, right? And that's how he came to the conclusion.
Yeah. It's not a hard rock. It's not a hard rock.
Yeah. So that's how we came to the conclusion, because at that time, it was the only time in the archaeological record that there was sustained rainfall that would explain that type of erosion. And this was a peer-reviewed paper by other geologists, and they all agreed with him. But then when the Egyptologists seen it, they all took a shit.
Yeah, I think they were using the science called paleoclimatology. So they were going back with computer models saying, okay, what was the climate in previous time periods? So the paleoclimatology is saying that the Egyptian area where the pyramids are was actually like a savanna, or it could have been like a lush, even rainforest at one point, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was his words, rainforest.
Yeah. Now, also, this is another fascinating thing. You know how rivers tend to move? Like if you see water like going in a stream, say you took a bowl and you poured water over it, veins of water will flow down the side of the bowl, but they'll also move as they're flowing. Rivers do that. And they're saying that the Nile River actually, the pyramids, there was a time where they could have been right next to the Nile. So tracking it in that way, they've gotten crazy dates like 60,000 years ago type of shit. Same thing with Stonehenge. Stonehenge, they say, is supposedly 5,000 years old. But when they checked it with chlorine-36 dating, it showed that the stone seems to have been cut 36 to 40,000 years ago. So all of this stuff, when I studied under Michael Cremo and studied dating methods, he was showing how inaccurate these dating methods are. I used to think, like when he wrote in his book, Forbidden Archaeology, he said the most accurate form of dating is strata dating. So when you look at a part of the earth that's broken and you see levels of the earth and you say, okay, this lower level is older than the higher level, right? Even that has been disproven by scientific tests.
Are you talking about carbon dating? Is that what they call it?
No,
carbon dating. That's one of the excuse me. Carbon dating. The challenge with carbon dating is it only goes back. I think 35,000 years is about it. It only applies to organic matter. So like dating things like stone, like Stonehenge. That's one of the challenges, is because it's not alive, right? So when they try to date Stonehenge, one of the things they try to do is they look at the quarry where the stones were excavated from, and they'll try to they try to date that, and then they'll use other types of evidence like where they'll date the oldest village there. And there's also a thing called Woodhenge. I don't know if MDs are familiar with that, and they'll say that correlates to the date of Stonehenge. So I think the date of Stonehenge is somewhat accurate. But there's no way to totally. So for example, there was a new discovery recently in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe. Now, MD, if I might be pronouncing that wrong,
Yeah. I think it's Gobekli Tepe. It means Potbelly Hill.
Correct. And one of the challenges they always had with arguing that the Sphinx was older than it was dated as, because it's dated around the same time as the pyramids, more or less, was they said, well, you couldn't have these great structures before the invention of modern agriculture, because and this makes sense if you think about it, right? Because they would say, well, you couldn't have division of labor, right? When everybody was a hunter and gatherer, the people didn't have a lot of downtime to learn how to become stone cutters or masons or builders or stuff like that. Everybody was just it wasn't until people learned modern agriculture that they had a lot of quote unquote sitting around time that they could devote to building these huge structures. So that was I can't remember if it was Robert Schoch or someone else, when every time they said that to him, he never had an answer. How was this possible before the invention of modern agriculture? Then, quite recently, just within, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, they found this place called Gobekli Tepe, and it's like Stonehenge times 1,000. And here's the kicker: it's 11,000 years old before the invention of quote unquote modern agriculture. So how the fuck do you explain that?
I mean, how accurate is our dating now when we date something?
It depends what you're dating. It depends what you're dating. If you're dating organic matter, if it's less than 35,000 years old, you can date it to within 400 or 500 years.
Well, it depends on what it's found in, because if you find something like a bone buried in limestone and you carbon dating, the date will be off. If it's in another organic material, say dirt or something, the dating could be close. But okay. Let's look.
But MD, that's why they take multiple samples and they
get different dates. And this is the problem. They'll get different dates and they'll choose the date that coincides with the theory of evolution, and they'll throw out the other dates. Now, I understand in the scientific method that if you took your temperature 10 days in a row and you got twice the temperature was 110 degrees, you would throw out the 110 degree reading because you can't be alive with the thermometer reading of 110. You couldn't live. That has to be inaccurate. There has to be, the thermometer must have been off or whatever, because 103, 104, 105 is critical. You're not going to live at 110 degrees temperature. So when they find these things and they find these out of place things, well, they say, well, it might have been a mishap in the dating, right? They'll throw those dates out and they'll keep the ones that coincide with evolution. But to show where they threw out something that was actually accurate was Virginia Steen McIntyre found a site in Mexico. I think it was Huaca or something, and it dated to 220 something thousand years ago. So they're saying, wait a second, that can't be true. They banned her from archaeology because she gave the honest ratings. Now they
but she didn't use carbon dating in doing that.
No. It was a carbon date. If you look up the story, the scientists dated it more than once. It came out to that enormous date, proving that there were people in North America over a quarter or around a quarter of a million years ago. Nova Scotia just got one that says 125,000 years ago. Graham Hancock was talking about that.
MD, carbon dating doesn't work that way, because it basically what carbon dating does is it measures the decay.
No, it does. It does. But now this is the thing. How do we measure 5,000 years of decay when you don't got 5,000 years to wait for that accurate reading? This is an assumption.
The rate of decay is constant. It's
this is the thing. This is the thing. It's an assumption. So like Tony's saying, it makes a really good point. We really don't know. And this is very hard for us to accept, because what it is we as modern humans, we think we're smarter than we actually are. Well, if we really, really got real with it, we really don't know that much, man. And this is hard for us to accept with cell phones and, 2x4s made out of steel machines. Everything we have, according to Greek mythology, other mythologies, Romans, biblical stuff, which is more structured Abrahamic religions, everything man has was given to him, whether it be by the gods, whether it be by something else, whether it be by angels, but we didn't invent that shit, and we're acting like we did. You see, that's the problem. The pride.
Let me welcome Scribe and Woody. They've been hanging out for a bit. Scribe, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Tony? What's up?
Good.
Hey, man.
What's
Glad to have you here. Woody.
what's up?
Woody, how you doing?
Hey Tony, thanks for putting on a show, bro. It's a great convo. This is some really good, deep stuff. And MD, older brother, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, brother. Good to see you, man. And my brother Scribe, we were speaking on Skype a little early, man. Good to see you too, bro.
I've got a question for MD too, and for John Steele. So, what's the narrative why they're pushing the evolution? There has to be a reason.
Scribe's got a great answer for that.
Well, I was going to say about earlier, it's that I don't think in the collective sense, as far as the people that run all this, it's not that we don't know; it's that we're not allowed to know. Only these key people are allowed to know these things, and they're going to keep us in this rat race and fabricate pseudoscience and all this other stuff and say, no, it's this thing, and no, it's that thing, and no, it's carbon dating, and it's like it's just a big mess of stuff, and then no one gets anywhere, and it gets convoluted. So they love this, and they'll add more and more, and some other guy next year will say something else, and they'll just complicate it more and more and more. Meanwhile, the truth has always been out there. It's just that it's not meant for you or I. That's that knowledge is, I guess, considered divine power at that point, because now you're doing like pyramid, like sacred geometry stuff that they don't want us to learn. The schools, everything are designed to keep us at that level of knowledge. And then you got everything else locked away in the Vatican Library, Library of Congress, all these other places where everything's just locked away, and you simply aren't part of the club, and you simply aren't going to be privy to that knowledge. So it's sad that the masses have to really dig hard, And to me, that the most advanced stuff really is beneath the surface. Like the stuff that lasts for long, forever, it's beneath the surface. The pyramids, all that stuff, it's cool. But the stuff underneath the ground that's been built is so, dark secret that they could pretty much hide anything they want, knowledge, whatever it is, and still keep these buildings that are acoustically perfect. That is literally impossible to create right now with modern technology, or is what we say is modern technology. And I just noticed that all I know is the further you go back in history, you see more knowledge, you see more things that have been taken out. Like a simple fact is, if you go back 500 years ago, pre-Copernican, you'll see that the North Pole was mapped out as 4 islands with 4 rivers going through it that supposedly control the tides. But they say, no, the moon controls the tides. But literally they took that out, and now you're given this map that's just a big hole up there with water. So that's just one little example of recent history of how they take these critical things out, so you don't know where you live, you don't know where you came from, you don't know what's going on. Now you're going by all these other theories and sciences and things that simply don't adhere to truth, and it's just taken away, and now you're left to create theories and string theory, and even Tuss himself said that those guys are pseudoscientists, that those guys, they're not inventing anything, they're just creating all these equations that lead into more complications. So
I'm a little bit less conspiratorial about it. I believe a lot of it goes to just inertia, is that when people have been believing something for a long period of time, there's kind of an orthodoxy that takes hold of people. You'll see this, within students. Like, let's say you're a student of, you want to get a degree in archaeology in college. Well, let's say your professor is, 65 years old, and he's published, thousands of articles arguing that the pyramids are, 2,000 years old, or 2000 BC or whatever, 4,000 years old. And well, he's not going to be receptive to any sort of new information that contradicts everything that he built his career upon. So he's going to teach his students that, because his ego is invested in it, his whole life's work. It's not even about money at this point, because he's an old man. He's just saying that, he's not going to want to admit that that's wrong. So I don't really believe it's a bunch of guys, in a dark room conspiring to keep things secret. Hey, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a lot simpler.
Well, I'm just saying that you can use your own references and just go back and look at a map 500 years or older, and you will see what I'm saying. They took these things literally off the map, meaning that you will know, when you were born afterwards, will never know these that this thing exists, and that's part of reality. If they take these things out and they start substituting things, like they took out the ether from the thing because of the witchcraft and all that stuff, where they all burn the witch, all that knowledge has been demonized and said, no, it's all bad, to get rid of it. We just have to
Yeah,
or
but you could
change
argue the
doesn't
same thing for like, Galileo and Copernicus, like what the Catholic Church did to them, like to hide that information.
Well,
So,
also,
I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, there's a
well,
lot of
well, they want us to believe in the chimp. They describe, because that's what I was alluding to. He didn't say it, but when we
but
talk
look at the Catholic Church. Look at all the things that. What was that famous book, and they made the movie about it? About Dark. What was the name of that movie where the guy wanted to teach evolution alongside creation, and it was a famous court case in the United States.
Oh, the Scopes trial.
I don't know if
The
that's
Scopes trial was from Tennessee, I think, and they fabricated a lie so evolution could be taught in the schools. They found a tooth of what they said was ancient man, and they made a whole thing about this was the ancient, pre-man, made up another name like Cro-Magnon, Homo erectus, but they called it the pre-Native American, because when they looked at the Native Americans, they said, oh, this is the lesser being and we're the more advanced being, right? Come to find out that the tooth was that of a pig, Hesperythopithecus or something like that, I think they call it. And it was all bullshit, but they had already passed the Scopes trial to say, oh, well, evolution is a scientific fact and it should be taught in schools. Then they made a fraud called Piltdown Man, which was supposedly found in England. For 40 years, they put this as a missing link until they found out that it was a fraud, that it was the jaw of an orangutan filed down with the skull cap of a human. All of this stuff, to make us think that other humans are lesser than others. Scientists of the day were like, that theory is invalid. You know who supported those theories? The racist preachers from the church, like Charles Kingsley, who drove through on his carriage in the countryside of Ireland, calling Irish people white chimpanzees. You can find the letters if you look it up. You can find the letters. This is because, and look at how the Irish was treated.
Irishmen, I take great offense to that saying, by the way.
No, well, think about it. This is what Charles Kingsley wrote to his wife. He looked at the Irish and he said, I must write the missus and tell them about these white chimpanzees. And it wouldn't hurt him as much as he saw Africans that way, because he saw the Irish still had white skin once they pulled, the shirt off, but, their arms would have the farmer tan. This is why they starved 3 million Irish. That was one of your earliest examples of ethnic, and look at the word, ethnic cleansing. It's murder. It's genocide. Genocide is even too nice of a word. It's murder.
You know how they say, and you know how they say that we only use 10% of our brain, like they always say that. I believe that, because it's like if we were at full capacity, meaning that we learned properly from from early age, as we're supposed to, and we learned the truth that was not suppressed, we would be at 100% capacity. Therefore, we would be literally, much more powerful than we are right now, much more inventive than we are right now. But yet, since they suppressed us so hardcore, they're literally going to have to feed us a story like you literally came from a chimp. You're nothing important. There is no special thing about you. You just happen to be on this rock floating around. You just got lucky, and that's it. So when you tell someone that's the story and that's what happened, versus, well, you're actually brought here. You're a multidimensional being. You pretty much have infinite ability for knowledge and whatever the hell you want to create. Which one are you going to pick? You're going to pick the guy that came from a chimp, or the guy that's infinite? So that's what's been taken away from us. That part of us has been taken away, and that's why there has to be a fracture between science and religion. We are all those things at one time, so they create this fracture. So you are never, you stay in your animalistic state. You don't ascend into that true being you're supposed to be. And that's in the love and all that stuff and the high vibration stuff. We're not supposed to be at war with each other like primitive, barbarians. We're way past that. And even then, people weren't like that. That's just what's portrayed. That's the stereotypical thing, that these wars are created. But then when you see these inventions that were done thousands of years ago, or supposedly thousands of years ago, and the knowledge and all that stuff going on, why is it we're still believing in Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago why hasn't there been something else or someone else to bring about some other miraculous, change or whatever it is that we're following them now and all that. There's a reason why they want us to stay in these particular doctrines of knowledge and keep you there. They don't want you to deviate from any of that, because if you do deviate, you're going to figure, oh wait, there's a lot more stuff over here. Oh wait, look at this, and then the next thing you know, you're like, wow, man, they've been lying for so long, and they literally had to create. This is a suppression. Remember, this is not us not knowing; it's us being suppressed. And some of us, even though we're suppressed, we still are able to push through. We have recurring memories, whatever you want to call it, and we just know instinctively this is not right. I need to do something about this. I need to seek the knowledge and seek the truth.
Joe Blow says it best. We are luminous beings, are we? Like Yoda. He's right. It's like if we knew that this was all a test of our behavior, we would act differently. We would treat each other better. If we knew that we were going somewhere and that our behavior depended on that, you'd see how quick people would act differently. But to tell somebody, oh no, this is it, well, now you can get away with murder, basically, right?
Yeah, but hold on a second now, MD. Religion has been a human constant since history has been recorded, and probably a lot longer than. We do know that.
No. Some religions are used for a wrong purpose, and
all right, no, I'm not arguing whether purpose is right or wrong. I mean, you could argue that Christianity has been used for wrong purposes, but or Judaism or Islam.
No, parts of
it. Parts, whatever. But I mean, I'm not going to.
Parts of it is used for good,
right? But that's my point: is that religion has been around since. I mean, the way I view religion is that I keep it in the realm of the unknowable and the incomprehensible. I'm a religious man, but that's where I default to, that the unknowable and the incomprehensible. That is the realm of religion. The rest I use to deal with the rest of the world. I use empiricism, knowledge, logic, and that's how I live my life. And I'm not trying. Hold on a second. And I'm not trying to impose the way I live my life on other people. I'm just saying that's how I go forward.
Well, the old saying says it best. Religion is for people who's afraid of hell. Spirituality is for people that have been through hell. And I understand where you're coming from. Without a doubt, if you go back, a lot of it is infiltrated by man. I mean, look at Romans in the Bible. Listen to your government. What type of bullshit is that? You know what I'm saying? So without a doubt, there's stuff. This is where I was saying we need to meticulously go through these pages, and it's some serious work, because the Bible, they print that shit on some paper thin pages that you can roll a joint with those damn pages. It's so thin. But and you look at that and you start to say to yourself, damn, how am I going to read all this? And really, if men work together, we'd get through it. It's to say, okay, look, this right here comes from these scriptures, and it was adulterated or it's unadulterated, and this is what was changed. There's a good book called The Alphabet versus the Goddess, and showed when they printed the Bible from, I think it was from Greek into German in like 1330, around there, a whole bunch of wars kicked off in Europe with people against people, because now people were using the book to say, hey, you see those guys? God said they're bad, and God said these guys are good. You see, if you just, whether they want to call it the golden rule or whatever, but if people just treated people the way that they would want to be treated, I call it the law of it's a reciprocal law to say,
law of reciprocity.
Exactly. So what's right and wrong, because you wouldn't want to be treated that way. Even if you did something wrong, you would want the other person to teach you. And I think it says that in the Bible somewhere, where you're supposed to teach him where he went wrong, not just chop his goddamn head off or something.
Rebuke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you rebuke. That's in the Bible.
So there's a lot of parts that we can take and learn from. And yeah, there's going to be stuff where we're going to say, nah, that ain't right. You ain't got to go around killing everybody for working on Sunday. I mean, of course, if we followed it to the letter, the shit is not going to be really nice. So if we really like think about this with our minds, and of course use logic, what do they say? Follow your heart, but bring your mind along with you. You know, so we follow our heart. Actually, science now is saying, you know, but I think we would know it without science, contains half of neural cells for like the brain has, and so does the gut. You know, the gut, what was that old saying? Trust your gut. Now they're showing how gut bacteria has a feeling, and you can literally decipher things by a feeling. They don't want us to know this, because if we realized how powerful we were, we would say, man, why are we fighting? What, you know, we need to find that bridge to peace. And in the midst of that, there is some evil shit that's around us. I mean, look at the ancient African myths of when man was given the ability to make steel by the gods, right? They didn't give us that ability to make pots and pans. They were like, no, you're going to make swords and shields to go kill other men. For who? You know, the Greeks said it very openly. These were hybrids of what would be considered gods or angels and men.
You're not starting to talk about the Nephilim, are you?
Well, no. Well, this is the thing. It could be called the Nephilim.
Because, well, I mean, look, I mean, I'm not going to say that stuff is not true, but it's such a huge stretch. So, I mean, you got to keep
okay, the Nephilim, right? That's the biblical term. What do the Greeks call it? Hercules. Hercules is the birth of somebody who was divine and somebody who was mortal.
Well, a human and a god, you know, had sex. I mean, that's basically what it was.
Well, it might not be God with the uppercase G. It might be God.
Well, it was Zeus, who was king of the gods.
Well, I don't think it was Zeus. I think it was Hera. So
no.
Hera.
Hera was Zeus's wife, who hated him. That's why he.
But Hera was Hercules' mother.
No.
Right?
No. Zeus was Hercules' father, and according to Greek mythology, because he was the embodiment of her husband's infidelity, she was constantly fucking with him, but she couldn't kill him because, you know, her husband would maybe kill her. So that's where that comes from. So no, okay. It was Zeus was a father, and the mother was a human. So
yeah, it's funny, John. Still, the way you describe it, you're describing a human. That's what you're describing.
Well, exactly. That's why
God. They claim they're God.
The gods are, you know, a lot of people. Anybody here familiar with Joseph Campbell?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, one of the things that religions do is they anthropomorphize their gods. They give them human characteristics. This is true in both the Greek and the Norse pantheon that we're probably most familiar with. But other lesser-known religions do the same thing. So we assign them, like, you know, the Greek gods in a lot of ways are very petty. You know, like Hera being jealous, or you know.
Well, they have sons and daughters. It's not like I'm gonna spawn my son or whatever. It's like they always describe the whole thing. And when you think about it, we are the ones roaming this realm. We are the gods that roam this realm, but we are under shackles to think that we're just mere, you know, animalistic mortals that somehow evolved from these, you know, chimps or whatever, even though chimps are still here, same way they've always existed, but yet we think that we somehow came from them. I mean, just think about that. It's like if they've taken away your elementary thought to not understand basic things because they said it. Just like Andy was saying earlier about the flying dinosaur or the birds turn into a T-Rex or whatever. It's just use your logical mind and say, okay, I smell some BS here because, you know, I've lived long enough where I can see, you know, these things don't just, you know, transform or whatever. So when you delve into that, it's not, you see the stigma, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Yeah, it is. It actually is. It's being contrived by a group of people that we don't know who they are. They want to be secret, and they have these presidents, dignitaries, prime ministers running the show, but we never get to see the shareholders actually own the stuff. And this is how it's always been. So this is not, you know, like conspiracy. Oh wow, this is new. No, this is what's been going on since millennia, since known to man, since man has been here. This is how it's been. So, but we feel good living this in our little bubble and feel safe with our, you know, little rules have been given to us. And if we step out of line, then we get, you know. but other men that are like, you know, screw that, I'm doing my own thing. It's like the example of Jesus Christ or Buddha or any of these guys that said, screw that, I'm gonna walk, you know, my own path, and if I get crucified, that's, you know, let it be. Let it be that way. And that's true till this day for anyone who decides to do that. That's the lesson of what they're saying. So if you want to come out with your own truth, you might piss off people, and, you know, or you're going to stay quiet, or you're going to, you know, live on your knees or stand on your feet, you know, and get taken out that way. So it really comes down to your dignity, your character, what you believe in is right, and can they shut you down just by saying a few things or whatever it is. You know, it really comes down to that, you know. I mean, and from what I see, a lot of this stuff has been contrived, prepackaged, pre-installed, and people are just living these sad lives, living off, you know, medication that didn't exist hundreds of years ago. That wasn't even an issue. You know, like hospitals and all this other stuff. All these things that we have to have now, or we're just dead. We're like totally just, if you threw us in the jungle, we wouldn't survive for 2 days. I mean, they've taken away our ability to be humans and basically living like, you know, a synthetic life form basically at this point. You know, when they start putting the chips in your head and all that, I mean, like, so, you know, you're not even going outside to play anymore when you're a kid. It's like going outside and play now for a kid is like rare. They have to be taught this because they're at the house on the phone or whatever, on the computer or the PlayStation or whatever it is. So they've desensitized.
Just make sure you wear your mask.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, now you got to wear the mask. Now it's even more so. You see, now this creates even a smaller bubble. So now you're really not going to be able to go outside and play. Now you're really, I mean, all these fears, all this stuff, it's ridiculousness. Oh, it's going to get you, and, you know, this is just the worst thing ever, and we got to lock down the whole planet, you know. But, you know, this is like a more extreme version of that, but it's always been there. It's like, this is really a game of knowledge. It's like, okay, if you want to get that knowledge, you might not, you know, make it, because there are forces out there that do not want you to acquire this knowledge. It exists.
Is it,
you know, just not going to find it in the mainstream. Go ahead, Tom.
Somebody brought a great point up earlier about ego. In other words, the guys who research this stuff. So is it a conspiracy, or is it the ego of the researchers and the people who are trying to figure something out, and because they're accredited or they're considered a smart person, an expert, in other words, you have to believe it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was my point. I believe it's more ego. Well, not just simply ego. I mean, it's their reputation, their legacy. You know, what they're going to leave for posterity. So, I mean, that's my argument. I know that Scribe and MD disagree with me on that.
Well, no, it's not even. It does have the conspiracy. It's both. It's a conspiracy that something or someone started, knowing that the human ego will fuel it and keep it going. So it's just like the Stanford experiment in California, I think it was, where they gave one part of the students uniforms and the other part didn't have it. They had to stop the experiment within
the guards and the prisoners.
Exactly. So they showed how a uniform.
You want to synopsis it for everybody so they know what you're talking about?
Well, okay. The experiment was where they made half the students prison guards, the other half were prisoners, and the ones with the uniform started to abuse the other students so bad that they had to stop the experiment, showing that when you put authority, especially on a uniform or something like that, you can turn a person into a psychopath, because we don't have those 7 deadly sins under control. Pride is actually, I see why it's the worst sin. Look at white pride, black pride, Asian pride. Pride is pride. That shit is fucked up. Then you have gluttony, lust, envy, wrath. And think about it. There's different types of gluttony. Eating too much is what we think of, comes to mind at first. But eating too fast is gluttony. Eating too soon is another form of gluttony. There's different levels of envy. The difference between envy and jealousy is very important to know. To say, hey, you know what? Jealousy is you're jealous of what somebody else has, and you want something like that. So you're jealous of that. Envy is saying, no, I want what he has, and I want him not to have it anymore. That's like another level of hatred,
That's really great the way you put that, because I've heard you say that before, and I've never heard it put like that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, this is where all of us together we learn this. One of
on the third side, the third side would be inspiration. So instead of envy or jealousy, which has some sort of a bad element attached to it, that you're envious or you're jealous of this person, versus being inspired, like this guy inspired my life. He had all these things, so therefore he inspired me to do this. I wasn't jealous of him, I wasn't envious of him, but there are people that are going to be, that. So those are three different forms of that same thing. Are you inspired, or are you jealous, or are you envious?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And it's very important for us. These are the things that need to be taught. This is the type of schooling that kids need to understand. Why do you feel this way? There's a big difference between ambition and aspirations. It just dreams. When somebody says, oh, I have a dream to do this, it's like, no, that's not a dream. A dream is what happens when you're at night in some other realm. That's your aspiration, what you have when you're awake and saying, well, I aspire to, own this company or do this, or, fly to this other country. And see, children aren't even taught this stuff. It's gotten so worse just in our lifetimes. The fact that, you and I are in our 40s. So we can go back 20 years and say, holy smokes, what has happened in these past 20 years from when we were in our 20s to now is just, it's on another level, man. I mean, kids, they grow up electronically. And one conversation I had, one of the deepest things I had with this guy, he was religious, and he said, you know what? We speculated that, okay, what is the 666 mark? What would be considered the mark of the beast, right? And he had said that, the 6 electrons, the 6 neutrons, and the 6 protons make up the carbon atom, which is what we are based on. So coming into the flesh, whatever spirit we were, once you get born into the flesh itself is the mark of the beast. Now, of course, there's going to be other things like the chipping and all of this other stuff, which we see is on steroids at the moment. I mean, we don't even know what's going on with the jab and all of that stuff. And looking through the biblical text, the Torah, the Quranic, the other, Greek Orthodox, the Hindu stuff, a lot of it does have some stuff coming, together to say, hey, you know what? What are they saying? Is time already laid out? Because that's another thing we don't even discuss that much. With the premonitions, I know John Steele, might feel a little different about the Nephilim and stuff like that. But how did the Nephilim survive the flood? And they say that it came to them in a dream. They had dreams, very powerful prophetic dreams, where some of them could have actually escaped it. Now, of course, this is still theory and speculation according to ancient, literature and, thinking about it. But it's food for thought. And Mega Man Cut is right. The cell phone, they don't got to chip somebody. People carry around the chip and the microphone with them. My microphone is right here. My chip is right here next to me. Usually I leave it about a good 10 feet away so I don't get the radiation from it. But yeah, it's there, man. It's definitely, and John Steele is very well researched. This is where, we need that. We need that. Primal Man, very researched in religion, scribe in religion and science, this is where it's at, man. This is the direction where I really want to go once I step, not out of, but away from the manosphere.
Yeah, this is kind of like a prelim to your new channel. Is really what it is. We're talking about things, and it's funny because a lot of things we're talking about right now, I'm learning as we're going along. And, basically, MD, you're an archaeologist. So your, I don't even want to say your opinions, but your research is proving a lot of the things that you're saying. And it's proving a lot of things like Primal Man believes in and I believe in, which is like evolution it never set well with me. Never has.
Yeah, it's meant to keep us against each other. I think one guy said that race is not the father of racism, it's the child. So evolution, the origin of species, when it was produced in the mid 1800s, that was the scientific template for racism. It was to say, okay, we're going to classify people and grade them like eggs. And this is why the Irish caught the bitter end of the stick and had to do the labor in America mostly. Yeah, you had a little bit of...
MD, you know what they used to call the Irish when they first landed in New York and Boston back in the starting in 1845 up until 1870?
No, what they call them?
An N-word turned inside out.
Yeah, no, I believe it. Ellis Island. I mean, it's the way they see, and that's the thing. They try to cover it up. See, people don't realize that the Irish were put through the ringer when they got here, and the whole thing with the African slaves was like a more of a business move, because when Irish slaves ran away, they could blend in, some of them, with the regular English and Scottish society. But if a black slave ran away, no matter how far he ran, he'd still be black. You see, so
that's why a lot of the blacks ran to the Indian tribes.
The proof of that is in Florida. I think 3 out of the 5 chiefs on the Seminole tribe are black.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right. Yeah, especially, you're absolutely right, MD. That's very true.
You know when they separate the Irish and blacks too, because if you go to the Caribbean, you'll see a lot of people with Irish. You'll see 6% Irish throughout the Caribbean in certain islands, and if you look at Jamestown, the one of the largest slave rebellions were where 80 blacks and 20 whites were hung. And that's when they said, we got to separate these fucking people. And not only that, they separated them, and then they separated within the blacks, the light skin from the dark skin. And that's where they got the field Negroes and the house Negroes.
Was that the up the river, where they send you up the river expression came from?
Well, I'm not sure if that's where it came from, because I thought up the river.
They would take the blacks, like the blacks that were rebellious. Anyway.
Well, you know what? Another thing is they don't talk about in American history is on some of the Caribbean islands are the black men that burnt down the White House in the War of 1812. See, they don't like to talk about that shit. The White House was burnt down by the English. The English are no joke. They fucked America up, burnt down the White House. President Madison had to run like a bitch and get the fuck away from that. And some of those guys, because they said, look, if you fight with us, you're not slaves. We'll colonize the shit out of you, but we're not going to enslave you, right? A lot of them were recaptured. You know, some of them were killed, but there were a good amount that went down and got put safely on some of the islands in the Caribbean that were just, liberated from the British, maybe 20, 40 years ago, you know, at that. Because if you look at Barbados, you look at Trinidad, Tobago, you look at Guyana, you know, those are English-speaking colonies. So if you look at what is it, Curacao is Dutch, Suriname is Dutch, French Guiana, Guadeloupe is French, St. Kitts, I think, is English, the Bahamas are English. So you start to say, who carved up the Caribbean, right? Then if you look at Africa, Africa was carved up the same way during the, the conference in Berlin in 1882 or something, where they went to Berlin and they said, look, we're going to chop up Africa and each of us is going to take part of this. If you look at countries, right, when countries fight each other and they make a border, it's not a straight line. It usually goes according to the natural geography, right? When you see a straight line in between countries is because 2 invaders came and invaded somebody else's land and split it down the middle. If you look at Europe, you don't see those straight lines really. But if you look at Africa, you see those straight lines. If you look at Canada and America, one of the largest straight lines in the world separates that. All of the states, straight lines. You look at Australia, the provinces of Canada, straight lines. The territories of Australia, straight lines. The Northern Territory, Southern, you know, and all of that stuff. Antarctica, you know, split up like that. But you don't see those straight lines in places like in parts of Asia. Well, Asia, Europe is part of Asia. It's Western Asia. You see, so, but to get us to say, no, we can't have these different people on the same continent because we got to separate them. So we're going to call Western Asia Europe and go against the definition of what a continent is and say that that's its own little continent. And the other part is, you know, Asia or Eurasia, if we're going to call it together. All of this stuff has to be talked about and deciphered so the youth can see that it's bullshit and say, okay, this is how they controlled us when we were younger, but we're not going to have this anymore. Education is definitely the key. It's clearly the key.
Well, MD, I think I got to disagree with you a little bit. I'm sorry I had to step away for like a minute, but you said that Europe didn't have these lines, like where it was.
Straight lines.
Okay, yeah. Well, a lot of, I mean, if you look at Europe, you know, all the, you know, World War I, World War II. I mean, there was an expression, I can't remember who the fuck said it, excuse my French, about how the end of World War I really ended after the Battle of France when the Germans won. You know, they said it started in 1914 and it didn't end until 1940, was because basically there was all these artificial borders put in, and you know, ultimately it was like there's a theory in evolution, or if you want to use that, called tribalism, where basically people want to be around people like themselves. You know, there's an axiom called diversity plus proximity equals conflict, and that has been true throughout the course of all human history. I was just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, all right. The way I look at that as being, you know, different from what they're saying it is that all tribal people knew that if you don't outbreed and marry the chief's daughter with this chief's son, that you get a stagnant population that starts to give problems like Down syndrome and retardation and stuff like that. And this is a fact. Inbreeding causes that. When people tell me that they're pure, I tell them, look, there's a fine line between purity and inbred. You're probably just inbred.
You're not talking about Tay-Sachs, are you then?
Huh? No. I'm talking about well, you know, it's basically like people really opposites attract. You know, when you now, I'm not saying that, okay, tribes ain't going to want to be with their own tribe, but there's going to be an attraction to some things that are different. You know, I found this when I was in Europe with women that were more attracted to men with dark eyes. And I didn't think that to be true. You know, one girl from Hungary was like, look, she likes dark eyes. And also, sometimes they like dark hair. I've noticed blonde women attracted more to men with black hair than their own men with blonde hair. And the opposite.
They've actually shown the reason for that is that.
No. They're saying that they know the reason. They don't know the reason.
Well, why it's true, I don't know. But the fact that it is true is that throughout all races and tribes is that women are attracted to men who have darker complexion than they do. Like, for example, even
not complexion. I was talking about hair color. So
including hair color. Like, for example, like the number one like dye color that women choose is blonde. Like, you know, women put blonde streaks in their hair. You know, that's a whole.
No. The only reason women put blonde streaks in their hair today is because that is what the beauty standard says it should be.
Well, no, but the reason the beauty standards. But why would the beauty standards say that if it wasn't?
You know why? Because we still live in a post-Hitler world. This is why, John. This is why Jamaica spends $1 billion on hair weaves. They don't spend that shit because they want it. They spend that because it's been imposed upon them to tell them that straight hair is more admirable than curly hair. This is why you can make $1 million in a year off of selling blonde hair dye. I talked to a blonde girl and she tried to tell me that was bullshit. I said, really? Show me how many blonde chicks that dyed their hair black. And she shut the fuck up. Because I told her, I said, you see all of these brunettes with black hair. You even see black chicks dyeing their hair blonde. But you don't see blondes dyeing their hair black because we have a Hitler beauty imposed standard. And the standard is no. Hear me out. The standard for a woman now is a flat-chested, flat-ass, petite, blonde, pale, white girl that is supposed to be at the pinnacle of the porn business, and everybody else follows suit. like the theory of evolution. You ever notice in the theory of evolution, the guy at the front is always a white guy, and everybody else is shorter behind him, saying that shorter people are less evolved? This is what we see imposed. What was, hey, you couldn't be one of Hitler's soldiers, Superman, if you weren't above 6 foot. Now, he didn't just invent this.
Well, you want to hear a funny joke about Hitler? What was a joke that Eichmann's made when they captured him? They said, you want to be as thin as Goering, as tall as Goebbels, and as blonde as Hitler. Made when they captured him. They said, you want to be as thin as...
I think it's Mike.
Goering,
yeah. John?
I think it was Reverend Foster's mic was on, but I don't know if you guys caught the joke. Was that Hitler was, dark-haired, Goering was really fat, and Goebbels was really short. So that was the joke.
Look at his practices. Wasn't he into coprophilia, like Chuck Berry, having women defecate in his mouth and shit that?
No, that wasn't true.
No, it's got to be. You see what I'm saying? It's got to be a myth. It's got to be a myth when it comes to Hitler. But Chuck Berry was doing it, right? Come on.
I never heard that about Chuck Berry, but
Tony, what should I have I sign into?
Yeah, I know. What did you step into? He's talking about like Hitler having women defecate in his mouth. I don't know. I never heard that.
Well, that's called coprophilia. Chuck Berry. I knew a musician that actually he played with Chuck Berry and he talked about it. And other people, it's open knowledge. Same thing with Hitler. But the thing is when you look at the practices of some of these men, that till this day, I don't understand why people are worshiping them. But that's the problem. You see what I'm saying? This is why, like you were saying, with the women putting blonde streaks in their hair, nothing wrong. There's a beauty in blonde women. There's a beauty in brunette women. But I'll tell you one thing.
I personally, no, just let me say this for the record. I have a thing for dark-haired women. I don't know why that is.
Not only that. If you look at Caucasian women, which it's just a stupid word to classify because it's Caucasian mountain Asians, right?
The reason they call it Caucasian is because it's from the Caucasus where the Indo-Europeans migrated from.
But that's the thing, and that's another false assumption of evolution. Indo-Europeans, they don't even know what Indo-European is. That's some made-up shit by Indologists. You see what I'm saying? So what it is the Caucasus Mountains, right, in Asia. So they say, okay, we're going to call these people Caucasians. That shit is so scientifically inaccurate. It's embarrassing.
A lot of times they call, like, if you're from Ireland, they call you Irish. You're from the Caucasus, they call you
No. Now that's what it is. And Ireland is really your Irie. Ireland, there was an island that was not too far from Ireland called High Brazil.
Ireland was named by the Vikings. It was called Erie Land. Let me just say this, bro.
Hey, Dean. How you doing, man? What's going on? You look like you're Columbia. Are you a drug dealer now? What's going on?
You should have saw me with the cigar.
All right. Hey, what's your feeling on coprophilia? Is that something you're into or what?
No, I'm not into it.
Thank you, Gene. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I've never heard that before, but it's kind of freaks me out a little.
Let's forget that ever happened.
As a Caucasian, I'm not cool with that either, too. So, just to be clear.
Yeah, what the topic was tonight was agree to disagree. That was the starting topic. Well, we're getting into some deep stuff. There's a lot of good knowledge being dropped here tonight, and I'm sure you'll appreciate this, Michael Foster, is that MD is basically an archaeologist. Am I getting that right, MD? I don't want to.
I would say more scientific researcher. Because archaeology isn't even really a solid science. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to add in with the Caucasian thing to show you how they just throw these things in there. They consider Indians dark-skinned Caucasians because of the straight hair and the straighter noses. And
that's because of what happened is if
of course they're going to say it's because of the mixing.
One of my friends is Indian, and it is because of the mixing.
It is not because of the mixing.
Yes,
think about this. How are you going to tell me if you mix a black person? No, think about this, John. and this shows you scientifically how that theory is wrong. If you take a black person and you mix them with a so-called white person with straight hair, you are not going to get a dark-skinned black person with straight hair that you see in southern India. You're going to get you're going to get a lighter-skinned person.
Right, I'm going to explain
the
it to you.
Dravidians
MD,
of India have dark skin, straight noses, and straight hair.
Right, there was
no, and they cannot explain it. They can't explain that. That's what we got to admit that we don't know.
Of course they can. There's different phenotypes, different genetic makeups express themselves in different genetic phenotypes.
That's a theory. That's not
for example. Well, all right. Well, it's a theory then. Like, for example, do you know why Africans on average tend to have wider nostrils than white people? Do you know what the
you know why? Because of the climate.
Exactly.
In Central Africa.
Can you prove that that's true, or is that a theory?
No, that's a scientific fact, because if you use a thermal camera, you'll realize that John, all right, let me answer the question. When you have thicker lips and a wider nose, you expel heat from your face.
Exactly.
Easier.
Heat dissipation rates.
Exactly. So this is actually an environmental thing. But this is why also when you see, you don't see it anymore, but the northern Africans, which of course, they try to take Egypt out of Africa somehow, they have slimmer noses. If you look at Ethiopians, you see a different makeup. You look at Pygmies, you see nobody over 5 foot. You look at Watusis, you see nobody under 6 foot. There is such a diversity of different people.
Environmental pressures force certain evolutionary adaptations.
Well, think about this. There is as much difference in Africans as there are in Europeans. Look at Irish people compared to German people, compared to Italians.
No, I cannot let that slide, because that is not true. When they say the number of
it's more true in Europeans, because you have Europeans with 3 different color hair.
The degree of differences is more extreme. No. You're not getting away with this. The degree of differences is more extreme. You'll take someone from Sweden. Are you trying to tell me that they have more genetically in common from someone with the Congo?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you will see a diversity between a Swede, a Norwegian, an Englishman, a Scotsman, an Irishman, an Italian, a Russian, a German, and a Czechoslovakian. You will see differences in them that are dramatic. You'll see one in Ireland with curly red hair and freckles. You'll see somebody in Russia with straight black hair without freckles. You'll see some straight hair Germans with no freckles. You'll see curly hair blonde people as well.
Yeah, what does that do with what I just said?
No. What I'm saying is you will see this diversity in populations of Europe, and you will also see that type of diversity in Africa with the tall Watusi, the short Pygmy, the Ethiopians, the West Africans.
That's a sincere question. I came in late. I haven't been tracking. What is this related to the whole topic?
Well,
what are you do? I guess here's the real question: what is being debated? That'd be helpful to me.
The first thing we were talking about, the show is about one of my pet peeves. We can agree to disagree, but what we got into is something MD had mentioned on one of his streams before, is that science is pushing evolution, and like MD was saying, that it's really disproving evolution, that there is something more than evolution. We aren't upright apes, basically. So that's kind of where the topic kind of
evolution is a religion. Is that fair to say evolution as a religion was kind of like what MD, I don't want to speak for you. Is that kind of your thesis, was that evolution has turned into religion?
No, it always was a religion. It's not that it's not even my thesis.
Who's saying that? I'm trying.
No, I'm saying that the research points toward evolution being a religion. If you look at it scientifically, evolution is a religion that bashes other religions, acting like they're scientific. So
evolution is retarded. Can we just say that? It's dumb.
Yeah.
Anyone that's
exactly. It's unscientific. Exactly.
Yeah. There's no missing links. Punctuated equilibrium, which was pushed by Stephen Jay Gould when he was at Harvard, was a way to make up for the lack of missing links. they had to say that basically evolution happened quickly in a couple of generations, and that's how they could explain the lack of there being intermediate fossils in between the different generations, right? Which is required for Darwin's gradualism, right? So all that stuff's like totally not true. And it depends on a philosophical naturalism that says basically that life comes from non-life, which requires a faith commitment, because no one's ever seen life come from non-life, which shows that it's not merely science, it's not even merely philosophy, but it's actually religion that requires you to presuppose things that no one's ever witnessed, which of course goes against the entire scientific method, right?
Well, that's what what you just said there, Mike, was the idea of religion for me is the realm of the unknowable and the incomprehensible, like life coming from non-life. Like that's something that cannot be explained scientifically. At least
are you John Steele or Caduceus?
John Steele.
John Steele. Okay, I agree with you. Well, I kind of so religion, like in terms of the actual meaning of the words, just the duties and association.
Well, I don't want to get into the semantics of it. I'm just saying, like,
yeah, okay.
You don't have to define what.
Gotcha. Cool. I don't want to get lost in that either. So are you a believer in evolution, or what? Or you're like debating it, or what's going on?
Oh, well, do I believe that there is such a thing as evolution? Yeah, I do believe. Like so for example, I believe that. Well, let me qualify that statement, so you don't think I'm like some sort of super strict adherent to it or absolutist, because I'm totally open to, like, if new information comes, I can change my beliefs. I believe that until someone comes up with a better theory, like I subscribe to evolution doesn't answer everything for me. No. But I do believe, like, as far as human adaptations go, especially I just recently watched a really fascinating YouTube video on game theory applied to evolution, which I had never even thought about, and totally blew my fucking mind. Can I say that on this?
Sure.
So you guys might want to.
No, but I want to ask John some. So game theory, mechanical theory, binary theory. Okay, so give me a scientific explanation for the sun. Is there a measurable, calculative theory on what the sun is? Or is it just this supernatural ball that just somehow gives us life and just, does all these miraculous things, and it's always there, and it's in the perfect spot, and it goes, I mean, when you look at that, and the sun and moon, like clockwork, and the stars, the astronomy, how the ancients calculate everything to the stars and sun and moon, the positions, they don't have a watch, they're not using fake time, they're not using, daylight saving time, or that fake shit, they're going by real stuff, so this is how the ancient tribes...
The reason they didn't use daylight savings
time,
I'm
asking you, explain the sun, because the sun exists
so people
right
could
now.
shop longer, because the sun wouldn't go down later. Do you realize that's the reason they created?
No, but explain how the sun was created. I'm saying.
Let me just follow up real quick with John Steele here for a moment. I'm curious. So, do you believe that time and chance working upon matter brings order from disorder? In other words, what is the mechanism where matter, stuff? So, if you believe in the Big Bang, mostly you believe that matter all condenses down, explodes out, right? And that's the heat that explains the radiation echo that we see through space, stretches out, cools down, comes back and compacts. And it's in a series. This happens over and over again. So Carl Sagan talks about this in his book, The Cosmos. What is the mechanics behind what brings order to disorder? So how does matter without purpose, right, without some sort of intelligence, how does it get ordered in a way that actually produces life?
The spirit verse.
Well, I
want to hear what John has to say. I'm curious. As someone that so philosophical naturalism to me is inherently a faith belief. It's a religion, and that seems to be at the bottom of most forms of evolution, whether it's gradualism or punctual equilibrium or any other different form you come up with. So I'm curious, how does something without order become ordered in such a way that it gives birth to life?
Well, actually, no, that's a really deep question, because you're reducing evolution all the way back to the theory of the Big Bang. So
let's start with Earth then. Let's say there's some sort of different proteins exist, right? All the different proteins that are involved in DNA and all that. Let's say that those
actually
exist.
ribonucleic acid.
That's right. That's exactly what that stands for.
Yeah.
How does that come to order?
How does it come to order?
What's the intelligence behind it? So,
I believe that. I don't believe that. I'm not saying I do believe this because I'm agnostic on it, but I'm not against the possibility that there is an intelligence behind
I don't care
this.
what you don't believe. I'm curious what you do believe in a positive section.
I know. That's my point.
What's the mechanism behind evolution? How does evolution happen?
Oh, okay. Okay. How it happens is, I believe, is that, like, for example, when when your father and your mother got together, half of your DNA, or 49.9% of your DNA came from your father, 49.9% of DNA came from your mother, and then there was mutations. Do we agree on that? Yes, no, maybe?
So my understanding, mutations are either neutral or break free. So I'm thinking about
No. Mutations can actually be negative. I mean, they can have
negative, but they're not. They're not. What is a positive mutation that you have in mind?
Okay, positive mutation could be like your skin lightening because you're in a northern latitude.
Well, no, I'm thinking about actual a demonstrable mutation that we've seen, because I'm
giving you one. Actually, it's genetic. Having white
skin
skin
lightening isn't a mutation.
You're thinking
epigenetics. No. There's a gene that makes your skin.
No. That's not true.
Let me just talk to Michael Foster for a
second.
second.
I want to hear John. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so there's a gene, like, for example, when we all left Africa, I mean, not, our ancestors.
Out of Africa is debunked already.
Okay,
scientifically.
I'll grant the out of Africa for the moment, just so you can complete your thought.
Okay, so as people, producers, you got to mute yourself. As people went to more and more northern latitudes in order to make vitamin D, because that's how vitamin D is made, right? You under that solar radiation hits your skin. And then it goes through your liver, and that's how you make it. So what happened is there was probably a period of runaway sexual ornamentation, and that's how people's skin lightened. Are you familiar with those theories, or should I expound?
No, I'm very familiar with all this, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so that is an example that you asked for, like a very specific example, like lightening of skin or slimming of the nostrils, for example. So
that's adaptive within species change.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when we're talking about within species change,
within species, yes.
Okay, so it's a jump to go from First off, it's a huge jump to go from non-life to life. Okay.
Yes.
Never once been reproduced in a scientific environment.
Totally
not
agree.
Close. Not at all.
Totally.
And the ability to demonstrate from one species to an entirely another species, I'm not familiar with anything that's ever happened, and I'm not really sure of any intermediate being in between that. And I've thought about it quite a bit, actually. And I grew up an atheist, and I grew up an evolutionist, and I'm sure there's other people that have read more than me, but I've read some. I think demonstrating that.
Well, are you believing, or are you disregarding the fact that, for example, like we talk about the light skin and thin noses, you're saying that's not evolution, that's not true, that didn't happen? Or
no, I would say that's adaptation. I would say that,
but it was a process of evolution.
Yeah, but isn't the basis of evolution like a lizard will eventually become a human?
So there's a practical distinction made between micro and macro. And this is a way to discuss. So you take dogs, right? So we'd all agree that dogs have a common ancestor.
Yeah, they're called wolves.
Sure, and but I don't agree that all dogs and all humans have a common ancestor, right? And so there's changes inside kinds that you have a great variety with inside that genome. Using if you go through this like a basic Punnett chart, you can see what you can create, but that but getting from one kind to another, getting from ape to human, like if you look at you look at the DNA of a pig versus a human and see what they have in common. The pig has a lot in common with humans. The ability to make that jump requires a level of faith, which the evidence doesn't back at all. And what I've found when talking with evolutionists is they're really crappy philosophers that haven't done any studies into that. They can't even defend this the scientific method, right? The scientific method requires a lot of different assumptions, namely that the future will be like the past, right? So the ability to test. Also, they can't defend logic, which is something that's outside of, it's a law that's outside of, it's not a product of evolution, it's not a product of time, but it's a law that's outside of it, right? They can't do that. And that's because a lot of people just read a lot of things and they don't put any time in thinking to the big issues.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to add something before I forget about it. It's
Please.
like if you look at the duck-billed platypus, for example, that's something that you would think would be at the end of our supposed evolution, millions of years ahead of us, because it's so ridiculous. And Andy showed me like a caterpillar where it looks like a caterpillar, but the other side of it, it has like a tail and it has like a large head of like a snake. It literally looks like a snake to, I guess, fear off predators or whatever it is. When you have these ridiculous mutations, as they call it, I think it's by design. That had to be by design. It's like whatever it was made that thing the way it was, and that's not through evolution. Because if you're calling it evolution of slow increments of supposed beneficial mutations, that's a whole different thing. It's like you're saying, okay, we grew an extra arm or something because we happen to need whatever. That hasn't happened. So, but we do.
No, but there's plenty of examples in nature of when evolution.
But I'm saying those are original designs. The duck-billed platypus. If someone looks at that through evolution, it's like, man, this thing is a part of every creature. It's part duck, part this, part that, part beaver,
and
part
it
whatever.
has venom. And it has venom. But evolution will make shit up.
When you praise it, go back to the dinosaurs.
Counter Michael's argument though, because he was
go back to the dinosaurs. Crazy.
No, go ahead. If we could hear John, I'd love to hear John say it, because I want to hear your point, John. I'm sorry. What was your response?
Yeah, I was talking. Well, I think there's a kind of had a senior moment here. Tony, I'm only a few years younger than you, so excuse me.
It's okay. We all have them.
We all have, yeah. Especially when I'm on the spot like this. No, I believe that like many things that Michael Foster has pointed out. You're right. I have absolutely no idea, and I don't call myself an evolutionist. So, if, Mike, you call me that, that's inaccurate. I would just say that. Evolution, I believe there's more evidence than not that evolution exists within humanity. That's where I've studied it the most. And this is not what I do for a living. I actually work in, well, I won't say what I work in, but that does make sense to me. And we can show that human beings have evolved specific ways. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. This was to Scribe's point. There are times when evolution actually acted to the detriment of a species. For example, Google the Celtic elk. This was
no. That's still a theory. See, they make these things up. Whenever you have a mutation, right, it takes away from the organism. It doesn't add to the organism. There is no beneficial mutation that goes forward. If you look at any type, even sickle cell and anemia in people from Africa, right, that actually is a dent in it dents the cell so the malaria can't dock, right? But what is the drawback? Sickle cell anemia.
Right. It's an evolutionary trait. It's an evolutionary trade-off. If you look at the so-called more people who have it as as the prevalence of malaria increases.
I'm giving you another example.
Hold on a second, MD. As evolution went on, when the prevalence
that's a fairy tale.
More malaria happened. Those with sickle cell would more likely to survive. At times where mosquitoes weren't biting as much, maybe due to the weather or whatever, there wasn't as many mosquitoes.
It never reverted back. It never reverted back.
Hey, John, can I ask you a couple hard questions?
Yeah.
Sure, brother.
All right. What's the purpose of life?
What is the purpose of life? Oh,
Is
Jesus
it,
Christ.
well, let me ask you.
I'm not putting someone on the spot, man. What the
Well,
fuck,
let me
man?
flip it. Let me flip it for you. Is there a purpose to life?
Is there a purpose to life?
Is this nihilism? Are we stuck in matter expanding and contracting through eons?
I personally believe that there is, but that's because I can't prove that to you. That is my religious belief.
Well, I like that. We're moving towards truth here.
It's purely based on a matter of faith, and I have zero science to back that up.
Is it so gerbils eat their young, correct?
Yeah, I think they only do that if the offspring is weak and shit like that. Or something
Should human beings eat their young if they're weak?
I don't believe so. No.
So you'd be against a mother eating a poorly genetic baby, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so would most sane people.
Why?
I believe that. You
Based
mean
on
like
what grounds? Yeah, what grounds should?
Well, me personally, I won't get into my reasons because I don't oppose my.
Well, no. Scientifically, I'm curious.
I believe that human beings have evolved morality because it was
evolved morality means that the morality is conditioned. It's not so
constant. Correct.
That's right. So the morality is a product of the time. It doesn't
correct.
stand outside
Absolutely.
of the time.
Got it totally.
Right. So it's not binding. Can't morality change? Could there be a time where it's okay for women to eat their
I also
babies?
want to ask him.
As far as okay, like not for me because I'm evolved in this.
That's
time
relativism. I'm curious about universals. You keep saying for me, what's universal?
Universal, I suppose so. But I mean, when you're asking, but in fairness,
let me repeat to you real quick to make sure I understand. You're supposing there is a time women could eat their babies or no?
I'm supposing it.
So just to be clear, okay? You're supposing there's a time where as gerbils eat their babies because they're weak, a human woman could eat their babies because they're weak.
Well, not because they're weak. I would say if they didn't, they would go. I could suppose. I could suppose a time where if they didn't, that humanity would go extinct.
All right, John. Let me ask you.
No. For example, hold on a second. No.
I'm with you. I'm tracking.
No. They can go extinct. All of humanity. Like for example, could you suppose a circumstance where if women didn't eat one of their children, all of humanity would go extinct? Could you suppose that? Because we're talking about universals here, like you said. So would you be okay? Would you be okay with all of humanity going extinct? Because
look, I want to give you, John.
Give me a moment here. Trust me.
Hold on a second.
John, okay, that's a good question. Fair enough. Okay, why does it matter that humanity continues? On what moral basis should humanity continue?
On what moral basis?
That's right. So you're assuming it's called a presupposition. Okay.
I know what a presupposition is.
Okay, you got a presupposition that humanity should continue to exist. Therefore, it's
no. I don't presuppose humanity should exist.
So what?
My question was to presuppose if humanity was to keep existing. Like for example, you can imagine, you're a bright guy. You can imagine a circumstance where if a mother didn't eat one or maybe 5 of her children, that all of humanity would go extinct. Would you be okay to say that humanity should go extinct? Let me ask you that question. Yes or no?
I have a whole different set. No, I think
no. Just answer that question.
So
should all of humanity go extinct because a woman won't eat 5 of her kids?
Let me explain to you the nature of these things. When you accept someone else's, no, I'm not messing with you here. Okay.
Yes, you are. Okay.
No, you feel it. You feel me closing in.
No, I don't. I feel you avoiding and evading.
When you accept a premise that you don't agree with, you'll end up accepting a consequence which you don't. Okay. Is that not true? Don't we, like the whole thing, everything rises on the premise. And so you have a premise that I disagree with. And I'm pushing you to walk out your evolution. I don't think you believe it. Here's what I think, John. I think if you saw a woman about to eat a baby, unless you're just a terrible,
I just told you that I would be against that.
You would.
But you know that about
grounds. You have no moral grounds. Where is your morals to be against that?
Let me ask you a question. Why is it that you would be okay with humans going extinct if they didn't eat their kids?
Oh, well, because I think number one, I think it's wrong to destroy anything made in the image of God.
Okay.
Right?
Well, that's kind of a, that's
What? No, humans
What?
not going to go extinct if they don't eat their babies.
no, but
because
we're acting
evolution-
under a
But I'm into,
position.
so here's how you do it. You enter into someone's worldview. It's very simple. You enter into the worldview and you make them walk it out.
Right.
You make them walk it out and show that you don't believe it. John, you don't believe it. If I press you on your ethics, on your ethical system, it's all going to collapse. If I press you on your logic, it's all going to collapse. If I press you on the grounds of your logic, it's all going to collapse. Anything you want to pick one. Pick one you
It's
want
not
to
based on logic, Forster. It's based on emotion. John is not basing it on logic. He's basing it on emotion and a belief in evolution.
Do you really
I'm
think
with you,
I'm
brother,
basing
but
this
I'm
on
trying to
emotion?
explain this.
I want to
hold
make
on
a
a second. I got a
distinction.
question for Mike.
Go ahead.
Wait, I think
You really
Scott had
believe-
something.
you
I want
really
to make a
believe-
distinction, man.
No, hold on a
This is
second.
going on too
Mike,
long. You hold on for
I'm
a
gonna
second.
hear-
man.
No,
Let
Scribe,
me make
you
a
hold
distinction.
on. You're not an
I'm
MP's
listening to
channel
you, John.
anymore. Hold on.
You got my
Oh,
ears.
really? You gonna front right now?
Yes, I
I mean,
am. I'm
You have my
quiet. I'm
ears,
talking
John. I'm
to Mike.
listening.
And Mike
Go
just said I have his
I'm gonna
son.
let you finish that, but after that, I'm gonna ask you a question. You're gonna answer it. Go ahead.
No, I'm not going to answer it.
I'm listening, brother.
Mike, so are you saying that you are okay with that? Like, if humanity went extinct, is that okay? Regardless, like, I'm not saying, like, because I personally don't agree with doing that. I'm just trying to say that there is a evolutionary factor in morality.
So with me, John, so
my
the
goodness.
evolutionary factors is a utilitarianism, right? Is what you're talking about. So basically, so am I okay with humanity going extinct? All right. What in your worldview? I am.
No. Forget my worldview. Your worldview.
Okay,
Forget
my
mine.
worldview. So I believe that humanity is a body soul composite, and they will live forever.
Okay,
So I don't think souls can be extinguished.
If there's no actual human beings walking around on planet Earth, that's
There
okay.
is. I think you have a soul that will be judged by God very soon.
Okay,
Like
all right,
all
fair
of
enough. All right, cool. You answered the question. Fair enough.
And here's the thing. All this is such BS. It's all such BS when you get through it. When you read a couple books and you start to think about it, like even how you justify the scientific method, how do you prove that the future will be like the past?
I'm not doing any of that.
No. This is me and you. You're not my enemy. I'm not critiquing you. We're men in the public sphere talking about topics.
Right. Yeah.
Men like running off each other. Like I don't know you. You seem like a sensible guy. Honestly, like you're not my enemy, and I'm not here to prove you wrong. But think with me. Think out loud with me. How do we prove that the future will be the same as the past? How can you scientifically prove that?
I don't believe you can.
Well, so then how's a scientific method helpful?
How is a scientific method
You think-
helpful?
what-
I guess it's a matter of degree. Like, no, your point taken. Just because you can't totally prove that the future will be like the past, that doesn't mean you should throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, like if to be oversimplified, like if 5 people walked off the top of a skyscraper and died, that doesn't mean the 6th person would too. We don't know that for certain. I'm using an extreme example to prove.
So we assume that there's a stasis, right? A congruency that exists inside the universe. But
right,
why?
and it's an assumption. You're absolutely right.
But it's a natural assumption, and it's because there's a lawgiver. Because there's someone that manages everything. And what you find when you get into these deep conversations, if you press people enough, I've been in these conversations before with people that are experts in areas of astronomy and biology. They're just my superior, like I don't. They know way more about astronomy.
Right. Anyway,
and it's important for me when I'm in those areas to listen to them. It's I hate when people come on these. I hate when people come on podcasts or like this and talk to me like we're the equals in Scripture. Like I've studied Scripture both in Hebrew and Greek for my entire adult life. Like we're not even in the same realm. But if I go to whatever your area of expertise is, you'll school me too. And it's wise for me to listen to you there. Okay.
Well,
But So when it comes to like astronomers or biologists, when it comes to astronomy and biology, but when you start to get to basic principles, how do we know the scientific method is even valid? It requires an assumption that is based on faith, namely that the future will be like the past. Okay. And that in itself has an assumption that there is someone that is keeping a sort of stasis.
But here's what I'm trying to say. I've been trying to say this for a while, Mike. You've been
Go
going
ahead,
on.
Scribe. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to say that, look, the fracture between science and what they call religion or spirituality. If you ask a scientist, what is the sun? How does it work? He's not going to be able to mathematically tell you what it is. But if you ask, let's say, an ancient shaman or someone who understands that on a deep level, he can tell you maybe a story, maybe their metaphor, their version of how it became to be, which cannot be explained by scientists. So you have a supernatural object hovering over your head right there. It's right up there when you wake up every morning. So it cannot be explained. Therefore, there is some sort of intelligent design behind that, and for that to give off life and everything else. So yes, there is a, source code, God, if you will, whatever you want to call it, that is, doing that. But I believe that we are part of what they call that life source of what the God essence is, us. So that's what I'm saying. On both sides, on the religious side, we're missing the science side, and the science side, we're missing the religion side. And that goes to the ether and the electromagnetic sphere, and all the ancient knowledge has been taken away to split us into scientists versus religion. And that's been how they've been able to keep us from fully being who we were meant to be. We're supposed to be both. We're supposed to use both of those mechanisms to find the truth. But if one side is just stuck there and the other side's stuck over there, that's how we're led to the slaughter, as in, divide and conquer. You divide not only the people, you split their consciousness down the middle and their knowledge. And you split that, and now you successfully have taken over their mind, because now they believe that, they can only learn one or the other. So
I'm with you, brother. I think philosophy and science, they're not at odds. So, I'm a Christian. I'm the only way to be made right with God is through Jesus Christ. I believe that. I read pretty.
But you see, when you say that, that's what I'm saying. When you say Jesus Christ, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, you are on that side, as in you're not in the middle, experiencing the whole gamut.
Oh, I'm not neutral at all, brother. I'm not neutral in the slightest way. I am a advocate for my Lord.
Well, you use a computer, right? So you like science. You use a computer right now. You have a webcam. You like science, right? It allows you to do these things, right?
Yeah,
but your issue,
made everything.
Your issue is when the scientists try to literally figure out life itself. You're saying, no, it's not that. It's not something that's calculable. You cannot create a theory of how this works when we don't even know how the sun works. And there is a thing about that. They call it cosmic plasma. Even the moon itself, the moon and the sun are cosmic plasma. And that's been a definition before they went to the moon. But that's a whole other subject. But it's like, to understand really what's going on, you need to go way back in history. And I think this is why, this is when we had the capability of so-called magic, mages, magnetism, mages, whatever. And, the mushroom and all that, all these magical things that were talked about. But these were people that were in tune with both sides, both the scientific and the religion, spirituality, all at the same time. We've been split.
Who do you think Jesus Christ is? Who do you think Jesus was? Do you think he was just like a really like cool dude, or when
he's a symbolism of the sun, basically the sun, just like Krishna, Buddha, all these Mithra, all these different deities over time, since Egypt and before that Sumeria, they've all used astronomy as, on the 25th day, the sun goes down for 3 days, it resurrects. All these things are symbolic through the astrology.
So when Josephus in Blood of Thrones, when he talked about Jesus being a literal person in history, and Tacitus, when he talked about Jesus being a literal person in history, do you think Jesus was an actual historical person, or no?
It's an example of that is till this day. When I look at it now, after going around in circles and trying to figure out the truth, I realize that if I want to walk the path of truth and do what I want to do, what I believe is true, then I will end up on that cross just like Jesus. That's the lesson. It's like if you're willing to live that real, you're going to end up on that cross.
Bob and Weeb, what you just did. I asked you a straight up question. Is Jesus a historical person? You didn't answer the question. You bobbed and weaved.
No,
away.
I said that it's a metaphorical version
So
of
he's
Jesus.
not a historical person. So Josephus, a Jew.
No, we don't know.
Care about the
We don't
Christians.
know.
The reason
Nobody
I'm
knows.
saying that is because
Nobody knows.
Jesus ain't the only one.
If you claim to know, it's just a
Yeah, I'm
belief,
saying-
and that's
I'm saying
okay.
Jesus was
I'm
not the
asking
only
you,
one.
brothers. I'm asking you, Josephus. So Josephus Flavius, when he wrote that, what he was making up Jesus or no? What?
No, he could have been referring to it from a previous story. Horace, born in a house of bread to a virgin, 12 followers of Horus. So
Yeah.
it could equate to an older story.
I have Josephus on my
No,
upstairs.
but
Have you read
Josephus-
Josephus? Do you know what he actually says?
Well,
A lot of those
I
books
actually
you
have
asked me
It
no.
just says
several
you
decades
don't,
after
based on what
Jesus.
you're saying right here.
I want your truth. I don't want to know about some Josephus. I want to know what you
Wait, no,
think.
Caduceus. Yeah, all right.
Go
I mean,
ahead.
that's the issue here.
You,
You're not
guys
using
are
your own
guys
logic.
are piling on John Steele. How about you take some of your own medicine?
Oh, you were too. You were on him for like
No,
an hour.
I was,
man. You
but
were-
John Steele's humble. He's
No,
humble.
it ain't even about that.
Oh, now we're not
Mike,
humble.
You
Okay.
got your own belief, and at least you say it's a belief. John said part of it is a belief, part of it is science. No, all of it is a belief. And just like with the Jesus Christ question, you don't know. That's the honest thing. You can tell me whatever you believe,
I
and that's great. No,
I know.
that's
Were
what
you there?
believe.
Were you
No,
there when he
no.
was born?
Let's test it out, brothers.
No,
Let's.
that's
Were
your
you- can you
own
walk
medicine.
on water?
No, you're taking your own medicine now. You believe that, and I respect that, but
Ask
you
me
don't
a question.
know.
You want to
do
ask a
not
question?
know.
Let's go down the road. Let's hear
Go
it.
right ahead.
What do you got?
All right, you're telling me that is Jesus a historical figure or is he not? We don't know. You don't know, and I don't know, and that's where we're
you're
at.
you're making an assertion, a proposition.
No, I'm not making an assertion. I'm giving you a truth that you can't accept. If you say you believe he is, that can be accepted.
Tony, I'm
When
about to
you
walk
say
you
you know,
down. I'm about to walk him down. MGTOW dictionary. Okay. You say there's a truth I can't accept, that Jesus isn't a historical.
no, that you don't know. That's the truth.
Go
you
ahead.
can't
But
accept.
tell me how I know he's not a historical person. I want to hear
You don't know. I said you don't know.
You
period.
keep making that claim. Can you go ahead and back up that claim? Do you have any
You
evidence?
can't prove it.
Based on what? What? How do you prove that someone's? Do you believe Abraham
But
Lincoln?
you come from the position where you bear the burden of proof, Michael.
Caduceus.
Exactly.
What's your burden of proof for Abraham Lincoln being a real?
No, you got the burden of proof. Don't bob and weave the question.
Photographs.
No.
Records of
Let's
his
establish that
presidents.
historical
No,
criteria.
You're bobbing and weaving Caduceus's question.
Don't stop being a sissy. What's
Right.
your historical
I had-
criteria?
And now you're
I have
ad
proof
hominem.
that bears
And
the
now
burden that
we got
Abraham
you now,
Lincoln
Michael.
is real.
We
Caduceus,
got
say
you
that
now.
again.
Now you're on a unicycle throwing excuses.
Okay, but Caduceus seems to be
Go ahead,
saying
Caduceus.
value. I want to hear it.
Well, I was just saying that you're making the more controversial claim, and you bear the burden of proof.
Controversial based on who?
No, but
Who
saying you
says
don't know
controversial?
something is not controversial. Saying that you know something is controversial, and you have to reject the null hypothesis and
So saying you know
give
something
evidence.
is controversial, right? You say that. How do you know that? So do you know what the law?
Me saying I don't know something isn't controversial because I don't know something.
No. You're making the positive claim that knowing something is controversial. How do you know that? Do you know what the 3 laws of thoughts are? The law.
Okay. Let's
law
break out of semantics, though. I'm just saying you have to
It's not
prove something
semantics. It's
if you
the
know
basics
something.
of philosophy. The basic of thoughts. That's Aristotle, man. That's Thomas Aquinas. Come on.
You're
you guys
bobbing
been
and
a
weaving the
philosophy at
question,
all?
man. You cycle.
I'm just doing the basic thing that you got to back up something that you claim you know.
right.
When we're saying that you don't have proof you know something,
All
you
right,
believe in
Caduceus, Let me
something.
ask you a question because MGTOW can't take this right now. Caduceus, how do you demonstrate that a historical figure before there was like say video or photos is real?
Well, usually in those people, you got a paper trail of their actions. You have proof of their works. Thing about Jesus that was unfortunate. I'm like, there's a strong likelihood he was a historical figure, but I don't know for certain he was.
Why is that?
if you-
Why don't you know? Have
Well,
you?
Mike-
read-
Well, he couldn't read or write. All the records of
How
him
do you
were
know
written
that he couldn't read or
several
write?
decades after. I don't know, but based on the stories, he didn't know how to read or write.
Magically, Mike does, right?
I mean,
You see what I'm
this feels
saying?
like beating up
But
on
all the
little
records of him are decades after.
All right. So have you read Tacitus?
I have not.
Have you read Josephus Flavius?
I haven't. I know that you know all the
That's
scriptures.
what
All
he's
the
going to go
scriptures
by.
weren't
It doesn't
written
go
by
by what
God.
you read,
Yeah.
man. Use your common sense. Your common sense. Okay, there's
Exactly.
multiple religions here.
He doesn't
Wait a
have
second.
that anymore.
So
They all can't be
historical-
right. The
so
fact there's
historical
multiple
witnesses-
religions already destroys your argument, because there would only
Guys,
be one truth,
Is
not
Abraham Lincoln a real person or not? How do you prove it?
We're not talking about Abraham Lincoln. We're talking about
not, because
proving about Jesus. That what and you've been bobbing and weaving this shit because your ass is to the fire and you can't answer it. You do not know, and that's a
Right.
fact.
And that's okay.
And it's okay.
Hang on, TikTok dictionary. Come on, let's
No, it's okay. You don't know, and that's okay.
I kind of like
don't
you.
tell me you know something that I know you don't know and you cannot prove. It's okay.
Look,
let me jump in here. Let me
for a moment. Just give me a second, Tony, with MGTOW, because just one moment.
No, this is his ego speaking, Tony. He should let you speak. Say what you're going to speak. Say, Tony.
Well, what I want to say real quick is belief and faith. They're really two in the same. Okay, faith is really seeing something that it's believing in something you can't see. Okay, so somebody just made a point about other religions, and these are the points that I kind of bring up every now and then. Is that okay? Let's say I do die and I end up with 72 virgins. So I'm not saying I don't believe that. I am a Christian, so I do believe what I believe. Can I prove what I believe? Probably not in reality. Again, if I die and end up with 72 virgins,
Tony, you don't want to hear about your wet dreams, okay?
But you understand what I'm saying. And this is the questions that I have when it comes to, okay, and Scribe had said, so why, I think it was Scribe, why are there so many different religions? Why is there Buddhism? Why is there Islam? Why is there a Torah, a Quran, a Bible? So you believe in what you believe in. And if your belief is so strong, you believe it's true. And I understand that. So I think what's happening here is that is belief and faith are kind of one in the same at this point. And I understand that people do have their faith and what's the definition of faith, Michael, or somebody? Isn't it really?
No, Tony's right. They're both the same. Belief and faith, they're both the same. Faith is like
Michael,
if you go in water, right, and you act like you're on land, you'll drown. But if you let go, you'll float. And your belief, your belief is just like faith. Belief, you know why it's called belief? Because it's not knowledge.
Oh, go on, tell me.
That's what it is, because it's not knowledge, and it's okay. If that's what your belief is, it's okay. But don't tell me that it's positive knowledge. Belief. Well, define it, right? Belief is what it's to leaf, to wish. It's from the Anglo-Saxon word to wish, to leaf. Yeah. That's what it is. So you wish that Jesus and all of that is real, and it's okay. It's all right. But at least Tony is admitting it.
Yeah, I mean, I
keep going. I want to hear it. I love hearing. So, so Christianity is a wish stream.
Look, in the end, they're all forms of control for that particular nation. Whether it's whatever nation it is, they have their own different religion, their own form of control, because that's what it is. That's really what it is, to be living in their lifestyle, to say whether this is good or bad, or whether these guys are. How many wars have been fought over religion? Give me a number, because that is the biggest. That's the big right now. Iraq and all this stuff. I mean, dude, all this stuff over what? Religion, what they believe, and this and that, the Quran. It's all designed to control you and put you in a denomination so you go fight against the other guy. That's what it is.
I mean, think of that. Think of you.
Right.
That's a positive claim. And
it's what's happening. It's not a claim. It's what's been happening.
It's what's happening. This is a feminine frame.
No, it's a fact. And now you're feminine. You're ad hominem again, man. Why do you do that, Mike? Nobody has thrown a slur of feminine or sissy or anything on you like that. You've been getting pinker as the stream goes on because your blood pressure has been going up because, like I said, we've been holding your ass to the fire of your own questions. You're the one that's bobbing and weaving. You still haven't provided what Caduceus asks. You hold the burden of proof, and you cannot prove it because it is a belief, and that's okay.
and that's what
Nick
that's
Tallow,
what
if you want me to go at you, I can go at you.
no, that
Does it seem
We're
like
not asking for that.
like I'm uncomfortable? You don't.
We're not asking for that, Mike. We're just asking for honesty,
Look,
and you're not giving us honesty.
No, I'm saying no. If he has an intelligent,
I have an
rebuttal,
intelligent.
then go at us. I want to hear
Nick
it.
Tallow, when
I
it
want
comes
to learn.
to the world of the manosphere, you and I are on the same page, right? I think we both hate the same things.
No, we don't. I don't hate nothing, man. I'll dislike it. I'll dislike it. See, that's the difference.
You don't want men to be taken advantage of, right? You hate men to be taken advantage of.
But I don't hate that. See, I won't lower myself to hate something. I'll dislike it. I'll call it out. But I don't need to hate it. And it's okay if you want to hate.
Dislike. You and I dislike the same thing. We
dislike dishonesty.
Okay.
And I would say we like honesty. Now, sometimes the honesty, the truth can be brutal. And sometimes we might say, man, you could have took the edge off of that. But we're men, so we should be able to take that.
I'm trying to find common ground with you.
Yeah, no, we do have common ground. We have a lot of common ground because
I'm not
trying to understand that life was created. How it was created, we might have a difference in opinion on that because neither of us really know. You know, we have our beliefs.
I think I do, but we disagree. That's okay, though.
Yes, and that's okay. But we have a lot of common ground. And John Steele and I have a lot of common ground
and
as
that's
well.
what I'm trying to stress right now. I'm trying to stress, like, look, you and I, what we see happen in the manosphere, we agree. We see a lot of guys who are just trying to find a way in life that are being used. And people are profiting off them for money based on lies. And you and I think everyone in this stream aren't cool with that. And that's what we have in common. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And whatever differences we have, like this is people who have at least a shared mission to help people. We can argue amongst ourselves and at least circle back around to the shared mission we have to not see men abused and taken advantage of by a bunch of grifters.
Yes, so absolutely. I want to thank you so much for saying that, Mike. I am 100% against grifters. That's my.
And so when I push on any of you, I'm pushing on any of you as someone. I don't have any malice towards you, like MGTOW Dictionary. You've been good for the manosphere. You've been good, and I don't have malice. And so me pressing on you is pressing on you as I would any of my friends. You know,
this is good.
Yeah, we don't perceive any malice, man.
And that's cool. I just want to make sure we go that direction.
No, exactly, Mike. I'm happy you're doing this. It's like Tony said at the beginning of the stream. The conflict, the disagreement is healthy. This is
because at the end of the day,
MD and I met. We fought. We had a fight. I came on the stream. MD and I had a fight, and after that, we became best friends. It's like you don't know another person until you actually fight them, because now you know if they're going to freak out, or if they're just a liar, or if they're just a plain bastard. You're going to know if they're real at that point and how they react, and that's the only way we can know, because I think that strengthens, like this debate we're having here right now. It's good. It's going to strengthen the connection we got in the future, because now we understand each other, on a deeper basis.
This is my third men's meeting tonight. I had one with my church and then one with my online, and then I'm on to this. So if I'm peak,
no, you came on fire, bro.
I bet you're tired, man.
It's been intense. Okay, it's been intense. It's been a long day.
Let me go back to what I was saying too. As a Christian guy, I do believe and have faith, okay, in my religion, in Christianity, in Christ. Can I say that I'm 100%? I know it without a fact. And the parts that disturb me, okay, why are there Muslims? Why are there other religions? Okay, so my belief is strong enough to believe and have faith in what I believe in. But I still do have in the back of my mind, again, and it might say, you might say, well, you're not a strong Christian. But there still has to be that belief in the back of my mind saying, am I doing the right thing? Do I believe 100%?
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Tony. Right about that. But here's the thing that when they say, the commandments or whatever, and all that, it's like every single country on this planet has what's called their common law. The common law of the land, where you don't kill, you don't steal, you don't grift, you don't do these bad things. Like everyone knows this. It doesn't have to be written down, these commandments or the Holy Bible, to understand this. But when you go beyond that, and then you use that as a mechanism to say, well, maybe these people here, like the Jewish people, say, well, we're the chosen ones. The second you say that you're the chosen ones, you've basically put down the entire planet at that point, whoever else. The second you say you're holier than thou, or my religion's the right one, or Jesus Christ is the God in all this, the second you put that thing, that label on it, that's what it is, you just put down everyone else's reality, because you're saying that, that's just what it is, and there is no actual, scientific, what we call scientific proof of these things occurring. There is a pattern with all these religions that they all agree on these things, but they all are different to conform to the particular people of that society to believe in, because it fits their, their, I guess, their genetics or their soul or whatever. And we never got to that earlier with the evolution thing. They talk about the physical evolution. They never talk about soul evolution. You cannot explain the human soul, because we are in these, bipedal bodies, but our soul ability is through the roof, and that cannot be explained in any animalistic factor of evolution.
Hey Tony, I got physical. A jet. I'm realizing it's midnight, but this Jared guy here wants to respond to me, and I want to be able to honor that.
Hey, what's up, Michael? I just want to respond to what you said about Jesus being a historical being. When people say, I don't believe in Jesus, they're not saying that they don't believe in Jesus per se. They're saying that they don't believe in a Jesus that does miracles, because it's kind of far-fetched. They're not close to the idea of Jesus existing, but just as a normal prophet, as a normal person without magic, or miracles, they're open to the possibility of just the Sermon on the Mount. Okay, that sounds great. I don't believe in a Jesus that does miracles or magic. It's far-fetched, man.
I appreciate that. So what do you think Josephus and Tacitus were talking about when they said he was doing magic?
Oh, well, just supernatural, rather. I should have said that, just supernatural.
Okay, so where you have a pre-commitment to a sort of order to the creation, which allows it's got a stasis. In other words, it never breaks away from the order it has. Is that true or no?
Well, just like reading the Bible, it has a bunch of contradictions, so it kind of breaks what credibility.
Fair enough. What's one contradiction that plagues you?
Oh, well, there's a bunch. I'm just saying,
there's a bunch. Then. Just pick one out of the bunch that there are. Pick one.
Oh, damn, that's a hard one.
What about when
Mike, help him out, Mike.
Go ahead. I can help him out. So there's about 100,000 errors, was what people consider contradictions, and when you work through them in the translations, a lot of it's just lost in the way we think about it.
For one is what's it called? The flood, where it says that the giants were destroyed or whatever, but and then in another verse, it says that some of them lived. You see?
So that's Genesis chapter. So in Genesis chapter 6, it talks about the Nephilim, or the giants, and then in Numbers chapter 13, it talks about the Nephilim being again. So the word there means the fallen ones, or to fall upon. They're talking about powerful men that in wicked times are these great rulers that fall upon. So it's not actually saying literal giants in the way that we think about it, but just the appearance of these sort of evil, powerful men. That's Genesis chapter 6. That's Nephilim is what the word means.
Okay, let's say when what's it called? Where Noah saved the animals, right? A jaguar was in there.
You can from a cats all have a distant ancestor that are cats, and through breeding them using dominant and recessive genes, using a Punnett chart, you can get to all the different types of cats we have right now.
Isn't that
That kind of sounds like evolution.
Adaptation.
That is changes with inside a species. A cat doesn't become an alligator. An alligator doesn't become a cat.
Sounds like evolution, man. But
I don't have a zero problem with microevolution with inside of species or kinds, none whatsoever. Macroevolution, where you have species changing into species, is unscientific and certainly not backed by the Bible.
Even micro is not, because there's no bacteria that changes into another. Eukaryotes and prokaryotes, they don't evolve into something else. They're in the fossil record for so many so-called billions of years, which we don't know if that's accurate, but they're still the same thing. Why didn't they so-called evolve? The cat, and you're right about that. With the Noah's Ark thing, you would need one ancestorial cat, one ancestorial canine. So a feline, a canine, an avian, and the adaptation throughout the world in different places could have one bird adapt and over a time turn into, say, eagle, falcon, hawk, osprey, pigeon, chicken, duck, goose, and because they all contain the avian gene. So when they say you need all these different species of, no, you just need one, the original, and that's where the learning, speculation will be in there, but this is something where evolution, it is a religion, and it is actually one of the most mentally controlling religions. So yes, we'll see people of other religions be controlled to a point, like Scribe said, well, they will kill each other. But evolution is at the top of that. They will try to kill you and say it's scientific or something.
What I want to say about that, the religion thing.
So I agree with you, MGTOW. I just want to say, I got a bolt here.
Let me interject something real quick before you go real quick. The reason why all of them are based upon it's a personification of the sun. So Jesus is a personification of the sun, which is why he's called God's son, which is why he can walk on water and reflect off the ocean. He can provide life and he can provide fish, whatever, all these things. He's the provider. He's God's son. So I just want you to think about that later and just maybe look at other religions and look at the similarities that they're all personifying the sun, because the sun, I can see it. And if we're going to bow down to a God, then you might as well be the sun, because that's supernatural. It's up there giving us life. Why wouldn't you? Why would you think of an exterior being that is not in your face and doesn't exist to you? It's there and it's supernatural and no one can explain it. And you realize that this is what the religions are based upon, but these are the common denominators. But after that, it's their own. So, oh, these guys are evil, those guys are evil, and they'll use that as a basis for, the war and all that stuff. So that's all I'm saying, that there is like a source truth, a single truth, versus all these different variations, denominations of religions, and God's Son and Jesus and Krishna and Buddha and all these other, supposed deities that were in the flesh. That's basically what it's saying, that the Son provides life and it's God's Son.
Jared, me, MGTOW Dictionary, and Scribe all have said some things, and I personally have to go to bed for tomorrow morning. Do you have any response? I want to be able to.
Thank you, man, for the conversation, and thank you for coming on, Mike.
Yeah, Mike, peace, man. Good night.
Yeah, peace,
Jared,
man.
I appreciate your question.
Do
you have a question, though? Do you want to ask anything? I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. On morality, I don't think morality comes from God, because think about it. We're in the billions of abortions when it comes to women. So what happens to women's morality then if God gave one?
So morality, that's a big question. You have to ask, where does law come from? Where does right and wrong come from? Can right and wrong be developed via evolution? Is it utilitarian? Is it the most pleasure and the least pain? You have to ask yourself, do you think it's wrong to rape a woman? If you say yes, good. Now why? Now work through it philosophically. Can you work through it?
Animals do all the same thing as human beings, because I've seen some animals where they rape the female ones or
So Jared, are you a rapist? Do you rape?
No, I'm not. Why would I be? No.
Why? What? Well, tell me why you wouldn't. If animals do it and you're evolved from animals, why not?
Well, I'm not saying that I'm evolved from apes or Neanderthals or something like that. I'm just saying.
Are you an animal?
No.
How are you distinct from animal?
Well, just by how I was raised up.
Because your parents. How are your parents distinct from animals?
Well, it's what's called like an emotional thing.
So you're distinct from animals in that you have an emotion. Could someone not have that emotion and rape a woman and be okay, or no?
Well, it depends. It depends on the individual. And I've also seen animals saved. Like there's this video where this dog saved another injured dog in a freeway. So animals could also have morality in that sense.
I hear what you're saying. Do you see the point I'm raising here, though, of like more of a foundational issue?
I see it as subjective. It could be it could be seen everywhere.
So is morality subjective? Is there a morality that anyone is bound to, or is it all based on the individual?
It's all based on the individual, but
so an individual could think it's okay to rape somebody, and for them it's okay, and therefore it's okay.
To that person, it would be, but not for me.
So when we prosecute them under law, which law should we prosecute them under? The subjective law, which by they ruled themselves, or our subjective law? This might make
the law of the majority. I think he means the law of the majority, Mike. So whatever.
So consensus makes right. If consensus says,
I didn't say it was right. I
but
said
the law of the majority.
I mean, you look throughout history. The law of the majority is a truism. Like whether or not it's right is always that's kind of a subjective argument, isn't it? Like
well,
it's right or not.
Does is it a logical fallacy that consensus makes right, or is it not a logical fallacy?
Well, that's kind of a trap, right? Because then
it is a trap. It's my point that I made earlier.
Yeah.
The MGTOW thought when I said it's a feminine frame,
I'm just saying
I was using ad hominem. I wasn't. It was a philosophical argument that I actually had thought through.
Okay. No, I never accused you of that.
No, you didn't, but MGTOW did. I'm bringing it up right now that the reason I said it was a feminine frame is I actually was thinking through the fact that I was thinking through it. You didn't say that, but I'm pointing out why I thought what I thought.
Okay, no, fair enough. But I'm just saying, like throughout history, laws for go back to the Code of Hammurabi. I believe that's the first codified laws that we still have records of
in writing. Correct.
In writing, right? Yeah. As far as I know. Yeah, actually Babylonian. Not Sumerian, Babylonian. And you could argue that were those laws right? You know, like they would say, like if someone kills your slave, you get to have 2 of their pigs, or things like that. I mean, I don't really remember them, but I'm going back to like 5th grade here. But is that right? Well, according to whom, right? But my point is that laws have always been a majority of, if not the consensus, based the whoever was in power imposing that on the people.
Again, there's a bigger issue here. Hammurabi was definitely Sumerian, but there's a bigger issue here, nonetheless, of like what is the grounds for it. This is what everyone has to ask when we get to these bigger issues, and that's what I'd point out to you, Jared. Is what is the grounds? What is the ultimate foundation of morality?
Yeah, because God gave morality to humans, and animals don't have that. And
is that what you believe, though? Do you believe that? Maybe you and I are very much working from the same assumption.
According to the Christian God, he says that animals don't have morality.
Well, according to the Christian God, animals don't have. It's called the Hebrew. It's nephesh. They don't have the nephesh life, so they don't have the exact same type of soul that humans do. That's without a doubt.
Yeah. So again, it's a gray area. Now I just want to finish on like Jesus again. I could historically believe in Jesus, but without his supernatural abilities. So when MD says, "Oh, you've yet to prove that Jesus exists," what he's really saying, you have to prove that Jesus with his supernatural powers exists. He's saying
let me push back on you. Even the figure itself. I'm saying the whole figure. There's nobody that has a time machine that can say, "Hey, that figure is different from Dionysus the Areopagite, from Horus with the 12 followers." I'm saying it could be or it couldn't be. Nobody can prove that. You see what I'm saying? So the most honest answer is we don't know.
So, Jared, when you say he couldn't do certain things,
No, Michael, just one thing. Like in the Bible, it says that Jesus was like a brown guy with burnt skin, yet Christianity paints him as like blonde.
let me ask you where that's at in Scripture. I'll tell you, but since you know, I'd like to hear where it's at in Scripture. Do you know? Are you familiar where it's at? The location of that?
Oh, damn, I don't know where exactly.
It's in Revelation.
It's in Revelations. Yeah, I was just about to say.
Revelation. That's right. It's the whole thing's figurative language.
For the feet or something like that.
That's right. It's figurative language. Because of the racial issue right now, it's supercharged. The fact is that people in the Near East were deeply racially mixed. The fact is that Egyptians mostly had white skin. That's definitely true. Okay,
or we don't know that for sure.
Based on
according to archaeological finds, Egyptians were very varied. So you were seeing light skin to dark skin, and this is on proof on Egyptian statues. So if you look at
actually, I agree. MGTOW, we're not different there.
Yeah,
they vary. They're very. This idea that they're all white or all black is just not true.
Michael.
They didn't have a race. They didn't think of race in the same construct that we did.
Race was invented in the 1800s with the Origin of Species.
I'm with you,
Michael.
Yeah, like, go ahead, Jared.
There's another what's called verse in the Bible where it says that Jesus had short hair, yet Christians paint him to have long hair. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like,
but what does that matter to us that are looking at historical records? What do we care how people misrepresent things? You and I.
Well, yeah, you should care because like that's what atheists don't believe. Because like there's so many things that were changed or whatever or altered or whatever.
But you know the truth. Then you say first off, I don't know of any single place in Scripture that says the length of Jesus' hair. I've taught the entire Bible 3 times now. All I can think of is maybe Isaiah.
No, the Bible says that Jesus had short hair, but I'm saying like non-canonically that Jesus had Christians paint him like in the drawings with long hair.
Where does the Bible say Jesus had short hair? Where does it say anything about his hair?
The Jehovah's Witness paint Jesus with short hair.
But again, I get you. But where does the Bible say that? They say his beard.
Oh, right. I remember now. It says that men can have long hair, so Jesus cannot have long hair.
No. It says that it's the glory of woman that she has long hair. You're talking about 1 Corinthians, and how we define what is long and short hair is not given there.
Yeah, but still, it's very. They still paint them. The Jehovah's Witness paint Jesus to have short hair because long hair is feminine, and Christians paint.
How long is long hair? Let me just be clear.
Have we spent enough time on the length of hair? Like,
no, isn't one of the pictures from Caesar Borgia, who was the nephew of a pope, a known criminal? Like I'm not saying all of the portraits, but you have the one with the dark hair.
Yeah, that was like mafia.
Dark eyes. Which is painted after a criminal, and then you have the blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus, and then you have a mixed in between. So there are different portraits. Everybody remember that the first slave ship that hit Jamestown was the good ship Jesus. So there is a lot of stuff that does have to be brought into the open, and that's not blaming anybody. It's just historical fact.
The popes were straight out evil. I mean, you work through the historical record. There's no way to get around it.
Goodbye, all Catholics. Thanks for listening.
The only reason people latch onto this long thing is because they believe that God, their God, Jesus or whoever it is going to come back and save the world in the rapture and all this. I mean, that is literally pre-designing your life to believe in that and stay in that realm because you believe this guy's going to come back later and whatever. When has the guy come back? Since this conception?
What if I told you the rapture is 160 years old, and it was created by a woman in
There
America.
you go. So this is all contrived.
It is. Well, the rapture is contrived. The rapture is a new idea created by a woman in a sort of emotional state, sort of here in.
I think you mean it's not biblical. Is that what you're saying?
I am absolutely saying it's not biblical.
How many what do you call it, evangelists or whatever, the extremists in that thing? They're everywhere. I mean, it allows them to say, look, I got the answer. I speak with God. Okay, let me ask you a question, Reverend. Do you know what the Holy See is?
As in the seat of Rome, yes.
The Holy See. Okay, so the Pope is the only one allowed to transcribe to the Holy See, which is
I'm a Protestant, just so you know. But I know what it is, but I don't agree with it.
Okay, well, this is supposedly he's talking to God, but it's basically a manuscript that is personified as a human, again, like Jesus. And every year he's like he's a membership of the Club of Rome. He's doing this and all that, going back all the way till Jesus' time, and he's progressing. It's like an entity, but it's a piece of paper, as powerful as a contract, but it's a piece of paper. But the Pope claims that is the Holy See, and he is communicating with God, and God is telling him what to do or whatever. This is where we have issues, because if one guy is saying this, another guy is saying that, this is where we have the wars. This is where we have the division. We never come to a conclusion of, hey, let's just love each other and be cool. We got all this technology. No, they want to keep you in a section so that when the other section decides that you're bad, or you decide they're bad, now you go to war. Now you're missing out on the whole point, which was to understand your neighbor or your whoever it is that's trying to, whatever. I mean, it's like we're logical human beings, I would think, at this point. And the fact that these things are still going on, and it's in the name of religion, in the name of politics, in the name of race, or whatever the hell it is so contrived and indoctrinated in us that we know no better. We don't know how to handle basic stuff. And a real man would see that and say, look, I don't need to kill this man. I am smart enough to know if I kill this man, there's going to be consequences. I'm smart enough to go, if I go to war and I commit genocide, there's going to be consequences. And unfortunately, those things have been by design. These are not things that are, they wake up one day and all of a sudden they're going to war. No, these are things that are basically moving the chess pieces of the grand chessboard. We are in that grand chessboard. And in a chessboard, you only have two, the white and the black going against each other. You don't have peace. You're always going at war. So this is the state of mind they want us to be in. And if they have to get you to believe it's Jesus, or if they got you to believe it's politics or whatever, science or whatever, this is how they make everyone conform. They have different categories. They have, religious people here, scientific people here. All the people we're accounting for, in case you happen to be a mathematician or whatever it is, we're going to make sure that conforms to our reality, and you don't go outside of that bubble and come against us and reveal the truth about the what's really going on. Because it's like, if you hear the news in Iraq, and you hear the news in the US, you hear the news in Brazil, it's completely different propaganda. You don't know what's real at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, Scribe. Let me end on a positive note, because I have to back out, just because I always come on Tony's streams and I always go longer than I mean to. But I want to end on a positive note. Number one, MGTOW, I appreciate your work in Manosphere, and you and I are on the same page when it comes to the illogic of evolution. We're on the same page. Scribe, your desire to be logically consistent and work through these things and ask hard questions. Again, I'm for that. John,
appreciate
your desire to press issues and try to think through it and be calm, I'm for that. I think forums like this, where us men can come together, bang on each other, and take some liberties, maybe go further than we should, but know that we're guys, right? It's okay. We can pull back. Yeah. I appreciate this forum. I really do. I don't mean that in a condescending way or a fake way.
Thank you.
I like to be part of it.
Appreciate you too, man.
I really do that. I mean that. And it's a privilege to speak with any men that care about truth, because frankly, the issue of our day is that people don't care about truth. And anytime we can get a bunch of men together to argue about truth for the good of others, it's a win.
And you see, when you speak like that, any country can get along. When you say things like that, there is no division, there is no religion, there is no race, there is no opposition. that's the voice of God right there. That's what I would consider it. You know, there is no difference. We're coming together. Yeah.
Anyway, I want to end on a positive note because I think we all are working towards a similar goal from different perspectives, and we'll tease that. Let's beat on each other as friends.
Yeah. Hey, peace, Mike. I appreciate you, always have, and I love your work, man. You take care, brother.
Thank you so much, John. And I appreciate all you guys. I don't take this forum for granted. I don't at all.
Appreciate you too, man. Definitely.
Thanks, guys.
You're always welcome, Michael Foster. Everybody.
God bless you guys. Take care.
Thanks. Well, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I've got to bust concrete block in the morning.
Tony's got to work, man. He's got to work those biceps.
Yeah. I know we talk about, keeping the wall up, but I've been taking the wall down for the past 2 days. So, but I really appreciate where this discussion went. I think it was incredible. I really do. I brought up a point about belief and faith, and to me, I get where somebody defends their belief in faith, and you should. I think that's important. I think that's real important. But MD kind of made a really good point, is that in the whole end of it, you really don't know. And that's a hard thing to say, that you don't know. So I'll leave it at that.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I think about that every day, man. It's like I know I'm going somewhere. I just don't know where. All cultures, they didn't have the word death. They always had the word afterlife. The next life. The Celtics believed so much in the next life that they would lend people money and say, "Pay me back in the next life." So.
MD, last time I'm going to tell you, it's Celts.
Oh, Celts. All right, the Celts. But and I appreciate this, Tony. I mean, John Steele's great, man. I mean, Scribe, my brother, and Jared and Caduceus and Primal, man, and you, Tony. This is really great, man.
Well, I like it because the topic was perfect for tonight. We've had disagreements, but not one person had said we agree to disagree. And that to me was important. That was the topic of the night, and I do appreciate everybody. Anybody have any last words? Primal Man, I know you've been quiet for a while.
No, I'm good.
All right. How about Caduceus? Anything?
Yeah, great discussion. We dove into a lot of things. I just wanted to say my take on evolution real quick. It's going to be 2 seconds. I think evolution is an active mechanism. I see it in microbes when they become immune to antibiotics and stuff like that. But it's not scientific to say that it's the origin of the species, because the burden of proof is on guys like Darwin to prove it, and we don't have any in that case. It's the controversial claim, how it's not scientific. And I'm glad that we can discuss things. We get in heated discussion with guys like Michael, who know a lot about scripture, and I think we all learn from it.
Scribe?
Yeah, I had something in mind. It was like, what was it? Damn it, I had it on the tip of my tongue. Let someone else go real quick. I'll get it back.
Hey, thanks, man. Great stream. I look forward to this is the direction I'll be going, and this plus, many other things, in this nature.
Okay. I got it. So basically, it's like people trying to say you need to live a certain way, when I believe that this whole thing, like you were saying earlier, no one knows, but I know that there's suppression of knowledge. In my heart, I know there's suppression of knowledge. And if you can keep an open mind to allow other things that are considered taboo, or they're considered, that's, evil or whatever, if you allow those barriers to control you, you will never find the truth. Because in some of those things are being suppressed on purpose. And then when you actually go delve deep into it, it's nothing like they told you. It's all fairy tales, whatever. But when you go into the truth and you see the real stuff, it's like, this is not what they told me. They told me some Peter Pan story. They told me some Santa Claus story. This is how they mask knowledge. And until we can understand that we have been suppressed of that, and it's our duty now to relearn that and to go beyond the mainstream and to go beyond what anyone else says, and it's our truth, and we seek that truth. That's the thirst for knowledge. If you have the thirst for knowledge, you are going to reach that point because there's nothing in the way. You ain't going to stop for nobody, no woman, nobody. That's just who you are. And I just want to end it with that. You know, if that's how deep you want to get, that's the option. And I believe that's the thing with Jesus Christ or whatever, being sacrificed on the cross, whatever. It's like if you go for that, if you're that deep, there's going to be consequences for that, and you're going to have to suffer. That's part of the game. Or you can live fat and happy, and die with in the coronary heart disease when you're in your mid-50s. You could go that route, but it's like when you're real, you're living with the land and you're being healthy, but at the same time, if you do certain things that other people don't like that happen to be in control, this is my issue, that I can't live properly because of these things, So I just want to leave it at that.
John Steele?
Yeah, I just want to say, Tony, thanks for letting me be on. I really appreciate it, for being able to share with everybody on here. I really appreciated it. And I want to say to AMD, this is an inside joke. Rolo's getting the band back together.
Oh, shit. I get
Did you
it.
see that weird clip of Rolo today?
Oh man, he's striving to be an actor. It's sad.
I got
So it's inside, guys, just spreading it around. Come on.
I got like LGBT Cinemax vibes from that video.
I just try not to. I just can't stomach him, and I know him personally. I mean, at this point, I can't stomach him. I just can't.
Ronald McDonald without makeup, man. He's definitely. It's hard to stomach him. I feel very similar to it's.
And I just want to say, 2 seconds, Andy. I really love all the shit you did with exposing Rolo and all the quote unquote dating roaches. Props, brother. Props on that.
Thank you, brother. It's I hope everybody appreciate. Thank you for appreciating it. It's it'll be a memory. I think it'll be good memories because when I move on, I'm just gonna kind of like that Boston song, "Don't Look Back."
Yeah,
I'll definitely be happy.
I know you're as old as I am.
Yeah, man.
Jared Mesa, any last words?
Yeah, I just want to say two things. Thank you for having me, Tony, and for MD. You totally fatality MLD. You made him get liposuction, bro. You won this war, man.
Thanks, bro.
And we're a diaper.
Yeah, I tell you, man. It's just I'm happy to move on. I'm really happy. I'm glad. I hope. I think Hold the Truth, Tony, and a few other guys will be taking over that Saturday night slot. Definitely, man.
You're the Goro of Mortal Kombat, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Well, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. It was enlightening for me. It was great. I mean, to be honest, I learned a lot here tonight. And I think that knowledge is important, truth is important, and I think everybody on this panel is really, again, for me, the Tony pill is about adapting to the truth, and a lot of guys have a real problem with that. You find something that's true, and it's like taking medicine that you just want to keep regurgitating it. You just want to throw it up, but sometimes you need to hear the truth, and I think that's what it's all about. And I appreciate everybody, coming on tonight and spending your time here. It means a lot to me. Appreciate it. So.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having us stream.
God bless, man. Take care, man.
Hey, great stream, man.
Good evening.